stay in positions that they're supposed to, allow classism, all types of stuff, but it is the truth. That being said, thanks to everybody. We got YouTube up and running, TikTok's on. Hello, shalom to everybody. Peace. How you doing? How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? Sister Cynthia, uh, Jolene, uh, Joe. Sorry, Jermaine, Brother Jermaine. Esamadi, how you doing? Eugene, how you doing? Grand Rising to you, Miss Pierce. This is Sharice, DOG. Thanks for being part of the community. Hey, babe, how you doing? Once again, my wife is on Bloom and Flourish. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. How you doing, Mayhew? If I didn't say so already, Sister Deborah, hello. Henry, Just Banks, everybody. We appreciate you for being on today. So today is Columbus Day. And thank you once again to my beautiful bride for ensuring that I was aware of that, because I was not, because I'm not really into these holy days that everybody else keeps up, or what people call holidays. Hey, Wagwan, how you doing? Um, Brother Austin, how you doing, Sister Barbara? And so, yeah, we want to talk about, once again, it's a bigger thing. It's not just as simple as, oh, Columbus Day, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to talk about the fact it's not the lie that separates, but it's actually the truth that separates. How you doing, V. Vern? Right? It's not the lie that separates people, it's the truth. People today are going to be on their whole thing that they were doing and all that stuff that they've been doing for quite some time. Oh, wow, this and that or whatever. And I'm going to celebrate, well, today's Natives Day, today's Indigenous Day. If we get to the truth, we separate the fact from the fiction, right? And when we dive into this stuff, it becomes difficult for people. How you doing, Sister Bree? And how you doing, Stupendous? How you doing, Skins? How you doing? Um, right? So we're dealing with a lie. And when people shed light on a lie, it causes separation. It causes anxiety for people. It causes frustration. How you doing, Sister Betty? It causes people to get frustrated over this stuff. Yeah, I agree with you, cool building guy. It causes people to lose their mind over this, because how dare you talk about the truth, right? People aren't mad that you're telling lies. People get mad over the truth, right? It's the truth that upsets people and frustrates people. The truth also simultaneously makes us free. So if we're dealing in truth, right? If we're going to deal in truth, then we got to realize that we're dealing in some stuff that makes people free, while also causing other people to fight for it, fight for the lie. So if somebody's fighting for a lie, they're fighting to continue to be imprisoned in the mind. Thanks for being part of the community. I don't know if it's Rena Devins, right? So a lot of people are fighting for something that actually imprisons the mind. Cristobal de Colon is somebody who is very polarizing in the story of mankind, or even in his story, because it causes us to have to figure out if his story might have some lies in it. If his story has some lies in it, then we've got to admit that maybe there's some other things that could possibly be lied about. That's really all it boils down to. Shalom, how you doing, Elion? Right? Elion, excuse me. So, or well, I'm still mispronouncing it. Shalom, peace be unto you. So, we want to deal with that. So we want to talk about this. We want to talk about on this Indigenous Day, some people call it or whatever. At the end of the day, right, this is a difficult subject matter for many, because we are dealing with a lie. We're dealing with something that's not true. And so, how do we deal with something that's not true and be honest about the fact that a lot of people have been fed this lie, right? Like, how do we deal with that? A lot of people don't want to deal with it. But once again, if we don't deal with problems, then we can't have solutions to problems. We have to identify a problem. And it's problematic that many people are still fighting for Christopher Columbus. It's problematic that this happened for so long. We were watching a thing on The Daily Show yesterday. It popped up. And as we were watching, and how you doing, Brother Stephen? We were able to see that there were some people, I believe it's in Florida, I'm not sure, but somewhere on the coastline somewhere, that there are a lot of Black people who had their land taken from them, and their forefathers have had the land taken from them. Native people had their land taken from them. And so they gave them this land back. And I think at the time, the land might have been worth some thousands, and now it's worth like $20 million. So even though they're giving them this land, over time, what happened? These people lost the ability to be able to make sure, right? Yeah, it is oversimplified. That's why we're not going to oversimplify it. I hear you, right? So over time, what's happened to those people is that they were not able to make money off of the land. If they were able to keep the land and have the land that should have been theirs in the first place, they would have been able to have it for a long time, see it go up in value, possibly sell it or do other things, and therefore, or even take out loans with the land, with the property that they had, all different types of stuff that others do. And now you get something worth $20 million at the end where you can feed your family and do all types of stuff, right? That's classism. That's not even oversimplifying, right? That's making it what it is. You have classism that joins in, right? So when you tell a lie over a period of time, people say it doesn't matter. Why does it matter? Why do you keep bringing up the past, right? Well, why do you speak the words that you speak, right? Why do you, why do you speak those words that you speak? Why do you speak the language that you speak? Why do you, um, love the way that you love? What is your family dynamic? Those things come from the past. And if you keep hiding the past from people for long periods of time, for extended periods of time, what's going to happen is people begin to believe the lie. People will become united by the lie. Right now, somebody interjects truth, and now somebody says, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Why are you bringing it up?" But we don't mind bringing it up. July 4th, 1776. How you doing, Tree by Living Water? Right. We don't mind bringing up um, September 11th. Never forget. We don't mind. Some people don't worry about it anymore. But December 6th, or is it December 7th? Whichever one. Pearl Harbor. Right. A day that would live in infamy. Why? Because in somebody's culture, they wanted to present that this is the important thing. Somebody else says, well, in your culture, we think it's important that we bring up blackface. We think it's important that we bring up women's rights. We think it's important that we bring up lack of equality, right? Even though equality is a myth, there's no two people that are still equal. Still, at the end of the day, these things are important, right? And once again, right on time, we have somebody, oh, this is BS, because somebody doesn't like what we're talking about, right? So since somebody doesn't like what we're talking about, what do? Oh, this is BS. It's a way of saying that I don't want to deal with the truth, because truth separates, right? Like legit, the person has no clue who I am or what I represent, but because they don't like the fact that I look the way that I look, that I'm using the words I'm looking, and that they see the picture that's on here, somebody automatically is like, don't bring up the lies, right? See, I'm going to say it's BS. I'm going to tell you that the truth is BS. I can look this truth up for myself, but I'm going to make it, something that I don't have to worry about. Right. And if you love Columbus Day, that's fine. Right. Because some people love murderers. Some people love rapists. Some people love people who had babies hit in the head with hammers so they could save, money on bullets. Some people love, that kind of holiday. It's a holy day for some people. Right. And so love them all you want. You should, if that's your culture. Right. The truth blinds certain folk. Yeah, it does. Right. But there's a people that uphold that culture. Right. We know. Not according to my story, according to his story, history, his story. What is his story? What does his story say? Why did Christopher Columbus get locked up? And how did he die? Right? What does his story say? Not my story. It's not about what I said. What does his story say? See, we were united around the lie, and people said, you know what? I'd rather live by truth than a lie. It's not the lie that separates us, it is the truth that separates us. It is not the lie that separates people. The lie caused classism. Christopher Columbus caused classism in Hispaniola. Did he not? Right? What was Hispaniola called before Christopher Columbus? Why do the people that are there now fight each other over colorism and who's more Spanish and who's more African? And if it should be Christianity or Vodou or whatever. Why do people fight that? You said, can't even make your coffee up. But people are into the lie. And when somebody says, hey, let me tell you a truth, people get frustrated by it. And it's okay, right? I used to be there too. I used to believe the lie. I used to believe that, hey, if George Bush, if George W. Bush, if George W. Bush comes on the scene, he'll cause change. I believe in that lie. I was in the United States military, joined and said, hey, if he's my commander in chief, I got to follow what he says, right? Then I said, last person I voted for, let me vote for Obama and see what goes on. Actually, that's not true. I did one other vote, even though for real, I didn't really get into it or whatever. I just labeled some stuff. So it's supposed to be my duty or whatever. But the reality is that Bush, nor Obama, nor Trump, nor Biden has ever knocked on my door to see if my family is okay. Right? That's the lie. Is that if whoever your favorite person is your president, then they're going to set a precedent that brings us together. The reality is it's a lie. You know, like here's a lie that was told for you. Here's a lie. You ready? Here's a lie for you. Um, when did the Vietnam War start? And when did it end? Somebody help me out. When did the Vietnam War start? And when did the Vietnam War end? Right? A lot of people going to Google it, whatever. Whatever you Google is probably not going to be correct. You know why? Because the Vietnam War is something that happened before they labeled it the Vietnam War. And the Vietnam War still goes on. There's still people over there in American uniform fighting right now. Now, are they sending as many people as they used to? No. However, like from Eisenhower to Biden, people are still over there, right, doing what they're doing in that area, in those countries, and still fighting. So we might say it started in 1955 or the 1960s, wherever you want to bring it up. Reality, though, is that if you got to go back to Eisenhower came before 55. And Biden is in office now, and they're still fighting, right? But the lie unified people. Oh, okay, yeah, let's just go ahead and say it ended. It ended. The Vietnam War ended. But if you're still over there fighting, did it end? Yeah, you got to know what's happening on the down low, on the DL, right? When did the Civil War start in the United States of America? People might say 1860 or 1861. Probably you'll say 1861. The reality is that the Civil War started in the Kansas Wars in 1856, where they were always already fighting in different territories that were not states yet to see who would become a free state or a slave state. And they were already fighting. Already happened. And by the way, that fight goes back to 1776. That's why they broke up in the first place, is because you had holders who Virginia slave owners who didn't want to go ahead and go, because remember, England is starting to go away from chattel slavery as being the main deal, and they're starting to go towards capitalism with chattel slavery for prisoners. It was a fight already. Did that fight end? Does chattel slavery still exist? Are there still white, brown, black, whatever color you want to come up with, people that are still in prison? That still be treated as chattel slaves? Are there not people that we're finding out in 2022 are having to have their organs removed because they're not being fed correctly and they're being used for chattel slavery to the point of death, no matter what color they are? Yes, it is. But what unified people? That supposedly you were unified under a lie, which says that the Civil War ended and that chattel slavery ended. But the 13th Amendment literally says, Lincoln himself helped to bring that together, by the way, and he helped to push towards the 14th Amendment. Nevertheless, 13th Amendment says what? That chattel slavery can only exist when we imprison you. Now, all of a sudden, we have private corporations. So private corporations are what's causing you to be in place. See, Columbus Day is a cautionary tale to where if you believe the lie is unifying you under something that's really killing everybody. But truth separates you from those that are really in power. I know you think that the president is in power, but private corporations empower the president. I don't care who your president is. I don't care who your governor is. I don't care who your mayor is. I don't care who your judges are. It is the private corporations. Look up the definition of capitalism. Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by private corporations and not the state. You are unified under a lie. You don't even know that 28 USC 3002-15A tells us that the United States is a corporation. And that is not something I made up. That is USC. That is the United States Corporation Law that says that the United States is a corporation. How you doing, Brother Nye? That's what it says. It's not my story, it's his story. But we don't read because we don't realize that law is vital. We don't think that law is important. We don't think enough of it to be able to study it. We don't think of his story as valuable. Now, your enemy has studied you. The people who are in power have studied you. They study you to the point to where they have you believing that you need to have pride in your 9 to 5, when the reality is they studied you to know that most people will break down if they have any more than a 9 to 5. So they make sure that in the 9 to 5, they know the average person can work that. And so they job you out, they toil you out until the end. And now here you are at the end, believing the lie. And all you got to show for it is maybe I can live off of SSI. Maybe my company gave me retirement. maybe I can travel some if I'm not too tired and too broken down and too battered. You're unified over a lie. But if you're unified over something that tears you down, why not separate from that and live in truth? Right? Once again, coming back to one of the questions I asked earlier, how did Christopher Columbus die? How does his life end? Was he even a hero in Spain or Portugal or all the other countries he tried to play against each other? Or a fake gold watch, right? Yeah, What's that supposed to mean? What do you mean? More people are unified under a lie. I just gave you the lie, right? I gave you some lies that people are unified under. He was killed by royalty because the royalty said he was too rough on the natives. The reality, though, is that he was playing the Spanish against the Portuguese and others trying to make more money, and they locked him up. He was sent over there to make slaves. A lie, I would say, is something that's outside of the truth. Basic definition. How you doing, Hootie? Thanks for being on. Thanks for being part of the community, fashionista, right? But people have unified under the lie for so long that it's easier to continue to be defeated by the lie. What about the lie of equality? I'm fighting for equal rights. No two people are equal. Treat me equally. Equally under what? Under the law? Do you know the law? Because the law doesn't say you should be treated equally. When the Constitution is written, and they voted George Washington in, first president for a lot of you, right? Sure, I agree with you. Matter of fact, Christopher Columbus was part Jewish, right? But I'm talking more overall the lie, right? George Washington was voted in by 6% of the population that was allowed to vote, and only a few of them voted, right? Matter of fact, watch this. You ready for this? Why did the United States of America, let's deal with them first. Why did the United States of America even celebrate Christopher Columbus Day? Yeah, George Washington is the first guy, exactly. The obelisk, Columbia, Washington District of Columbia, exactly. But once again, why did people even, do you even know why Columbus Day began to be celebrated? It was a lie in the first place. How you doing, Sister Lori? How you doing? I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. Is it Ranziano? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, just DY3 just agreed with that. No problem, right? We on the same thing. Why did people even begin to celebrate Columbus Day in the United States of America? How you doing, Tanji? If I'm saying that correctly. See what I'm saying? You unified under a lie. I didn't know. Honestly, you don't care. Well, then cool. Well, for those who care, because you're not the only person on here, but thank you for being on. Even when you depreciate, we appreciate. So I appreciate your presence, right? So once again, greetings to you. And what? So how you doing, Minister Select Joseph? So once again, why did Americans even celebrate Christopher Columbus Day? Thanks for being part of the community, Damian Curdy and Gamma Type too. Appreciate you. I think I missed somebody earlier. Please forgive me. A lot of comments coming in. Right? You celebrated Christopher Columbus Day because there were Italians who at one point were treated as low-class citizens just because they were being Italian. Right? And so there were Italians that came together and said, hey, we need to have somebody we can celebrate, right? That we can say is somebody we can look to. We need to have some kind of Italian history. We need to have like an Italian history week, an Italian history month, and all that stuff for ourselves. So they said, hey, let's go ahead and celebrate Christopher Columbus and say that he's Italian. And in that, go ahead and have our own day. And decades later, they actually came out as a community and denounced the holiday, saying, our bad, we messed up. We shouldn't have done that. It's a lie. Right? When they got a little more credit and they got to be up a little higher, then they came out and said, oh, let's go ahead and say that that's a lie. That's the only reason you celebrate it. You can look it up. You can watch people who are Italian themselves from that age range, from that time period, tell you for themselves with their own words. How you doing, Lee Ross? Right? They told you it was a lie. They wanted to unify Italians and have Italians be able to be unified with Americans by being able to feed you a lie. And then they came out and told you, yeah, but our bad, we lied. Thanks for being part of the community. I don't know how to pronounce it. DY4S 08C7 OK number 9. I apologize. right? So that's why Americans even celebrated Christopher Columbus. Right? Now, did Christopher Columbus even discover America? This is where it gets touchy and people don't like this, but we're going to tell the truth. Hello, Yako, how you doing? Jacobo, excuse me. Right? Let's tell the truth. Did Christopher Columbus discover America? See, when we say America, we're not talking about just the United States corporation. America is bigger than that, right? Remember that the original definition of an American, according to Eurocentric law, the original definition of an American is what? Is a copper-colored person indigenous to America. They changed it when they fought in 1776, and they threw the T over, and they put on American costume, and they said, we're now the Americans, right? So Christopher Columbus, how does he discover the Americas where people live in North America and South America, on Turtle Island and other places? How did Christopher Columbus discover America? That's the question, right? Yes and no is actually the answer, but you got to go by the culture. That's why we always talk about you got to say culture first. Thanks for being part of the community, Abigail. Appreciate you. Right? Thanks for sharing the live, Joanne. Right? Like we have to do what? You said Amerigo Vespucci, even that's a lie. He changed his name. His original name is not even Amerigo or Americo, right? Like but once again, how many of you know about the doctrine of discovery? Or once again, excuse me. Some of you don't know about it. How many of you know about the doctrine of discovery? How you doing, Michael? I'm sorry, Grand Rising to you. Thanks for being part of the community, smiling. Appreciate you. And I don't know if I'm saying this right, Ethiopian or Iopian. One mom, I think. Uh-oh. This thing keeps going down. Right? Right? The doctrine of discovery. So you do. So watch this. So check me. If I'm wrong, right? It's the Pope who in 1453 had already started using something called the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery basically said if the Roman Catholic Church sends its emissaries or its evangelists or its I'm missing the word I'm really looking for, but if missionaries, there we go. If the Pope sends his missionaries, how you doing, Maxine? If the Pope sends his missionaries somewhere, or whoever, and they find land that there are no white Christian males that they come into contact with, then whoever finds that land, they can say they discovered it, because if you're not a white Christian male, then you're not considered to be a human being on the level that they are. That was something they started in 1453, right? So almost 4 decades, right? About 4 decades before Christopher Columbus is sent, the Pope was already doing this, which means they were already going different places, right? That's the doctrine of discovery. That's what he came up with. That's something you can look up for yourself, right? Now, it doesn't become law or written out law. It just becomes something he's saying, but it doesn't really become something that's in effect law until 1493. Why? Well, the Moors had control over a lot of places in Europe and especially Spain until 1491. In 1491, 2/3 of Spain, right? Because Spain is not a country yet. Spain had been under the Carthaginians even before Christ, or some of you would say before the Common Era, right? And then the Carthaginians have been over it. After that, then Rome is over it for a while, right? And then the Moors eventually take power over it, back over in the 700s, right? In the 700s, so Spain is not a country. There's a lot of different Spanish tribes, if you will, that are around, or Spanish villas, Spanish cities, but they're not. They're not a country yet. The Crusades is happening during some of this time as well, and so 2 generations removed is Queen Isabel and King Ferdinand. King Ferdinand has a smaller part of Spain. Queen Isabel now has a larger chunk of Spain, and by 1491, the Moors still have a little bit left of Spain too, the tip towards Africa. They, in the name of this old crusade, this Roman Catholic crusade, say we're going to take over the rest of Spain, and they defeat the Moors. The last great Moorish king. How you doing, Henry? How you doing, Minister Selectionte? The last great Moorish king is defeated, and they lose. Spain is now under Ferdinand and Isabel because they've married, and the first thing that they do, right, after learning from Christopher Columbus, who has been sailing with Africans since at least 1482. right? Christopher Columbus has heard of this land of Azeroth, even mentioned in the Apocrypha, which the Roman Catholic Church knew about, is even mentioned in the movie 1492, right? A movie about Christopher Columbus' life, right? But it's even mentioned in this movie 1492, if you want to look for it. But it's actually in 2nd Esdras chapter 13, verses 40 through 45. There's this land of Azeroth that they believe that Israelites have gone to a long time ago. So Christopher Columbus says, I've heard about it. I know about these winds and stuff that are supposed to happen. I've heard about these currents, and I'd like to be able to go over to this place. So obviously he's not discovering something that people already are telling him about that they've been going back and forth to, right? He says that I can find the land of Azeroth, and I have this Hebrew interpreter I can bring over with me who's been scattered to West Africa now, right? And I would like to be able to go over there and be able to see what they have. And even, hey, maybe we can make slaves. Queen Isabel likes this. And she knows about the land of Azeroth. She's been trained in this stuff. She's Roman Catholic. So she knows about this stuff. She goes because she has to get permission from the Pope. So she goes to the Pope and says, hey, I'm pretty sure we can get to the land of Azeroth. I know there's these people over there, supposed to be black and brown people, etc. I'm trying to get into the slave trade, thank you for the love. Appreciate that. And so then when they do this, they say, okay, we're going to go over. Cool. The Pope says, though, when you go over, you can go over as long as you get me some of the gold you're looking for, and some of the land you're looking for, and some of the slaves you're looking for. Queen Isabel says, deal. Let's go. She says, Christopher Columbus, go make it happen. He brings the Hebrew interpreter over who speaks, Hebrew and speaks like Avda and Ivrit and some other languages, right, that are West African. And they go over looking for the land of Azeroth, and they find it, and they talk back and forth. And using dialects of Hebrew, they're able to have a conversation. It's written in Christopher Columbus' journal and in his son's journal, by the way, right? Not my story, his story. Okay, so listen to his story. He tells you these things. He came over there looking for slaves, and they were able to find out that the same metallurgy, the same weapons that they use in West Africa is actually the same exact metallurgy and weapons that they were using over there, showing that trade even of technology and things. How you doing, Sister Beverly? These same things are going back and forth. He didn't believe it. So when he came back, he actually came back over to Spain, had them study it. They had just fought against the Moors. So they knew about some of this stuff. And they were like, wow, these are Moorish weapons that you found over there. Then they took it over to the Pope, and they had at the Vatican a study done as well. And they said, oh, wow, yeah, these are in fact the same things. Now, this is fact, which means that even by that, Christopher Columbus couldn't have been the first person to go over if he had to learn from African sailors, both East African sailors and West African sailors, how to be able to use those currents. How you doing, the first and go, and right, and Christy Red, and others. I'm sorry if I'm missing names. A lot of people popping up, right? So we see. Wait a minute. We can see very clearly. How do you discover it? Well, it was because the doctrine of discovery. So in 1491, he says, I can go over there and find it, right? After they finish beating the Moors. 1492, Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue. 1493, the doctrine of discovery, which says that once again, only a white Christian male can discover someplace. So if there's no white Christian males in the place, then it's not discovered yet. So 1493, the doctrine of discovery becomes official when they realize how easy it is to get to the Americas. I'm not sure if there's an audio book. Probably is somewhere. I'm not sure. Right. Thanks for being part of the community, the first and goal. So we can see these things. This is reality. Right. Once again, in the movie that was from 1900s, right? I don't know if it's 1970, 1980s, 1990s, somewhere in there, but a movie that was made called 1492. Go look at it. And it has the land of Azeroth in the movie. They mention it. I'm not making this up. Even in Hollywood, which doesn't even like to tell that much truth, they at least told some truth. How you doing, Amy? How you doing? Thanks for being part of the community. Donald R. Jenkins, I believe. Sorry if I missed anybody there. Is it Mind of Thoth? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Thanks for being part of the community. So these are things that are there, right? So once again, people became united under a lie, right? New world is a lie. How are you going to have something new that people exist on? But the doctrine of discovery, Roman Catholic law, says that if we find something that people that don't look like us are on and don't believe like us are on, we can say we discovered it. Thank you for the love. It's ZZZ Arts. ZZZ Arts. I don't know how to pronounce it, but thanks for being on. How you doing, Dr. Fingers? Right? So these are things that people have lived by the lie for so long. Right? Grand Rising Malibu Bunks. I don't know if I said that correctly. Boo Banks or Boo Bunks. Excuse me. Excuse my pronunciation. Right. So we're not aware of the lie, and people got unified under the lie. And what I'm trying to say is Columbus is a cautionary tale of uniting under a lie. Truth separates. This is why people don't want to tell the truth, because you got to separate those who want to live in the lie and remain bound, and you want to live in the truth and start to create freedom, or have freedom that's created for you to live it and be inside of it. Peace and love to you as well. Thank you. Right. History is written by the winners of the conflict. A lot of times, that's why it's his story. Here's something like for example, we've talked about this often. Let's bring this up again. What is a parade? You think a parade is just when people march or a nice time. What is a parade? Where does that come from? People want to unify under lies. What is a parade? For those who say that we have victim mentality and you should be a victor, not a victim, and all that. What is a parade? What makes a victor a victor? What makes a victim a victim? Do you know? It's such BS. Yeah, it's BS to those that don't study, right? So what is a parade? Who cares? Well, then fine. For those who are here that care, I don't know why somebody would listen to something they don't care. That shows your mindset. Like, go do things that you care about. That doesn't even make sense. You want to depreciate, we appreciate. I appreciate you even when you try to depreciate me, right? Appreciate you. Okay. When people get mad at you just because you're telling truth, once again, truth separates. It shows me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. How you doing, Fatal Proofs? Right. So what is a parade? A parade is what? A parade means this is Roman. We're still dealing with Roman stuff. Romantic. You romanticize stuff, and you've lived by a romanticized life for so long that you're not willing to see that, hey, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. So why do you have parades? Well, the Romans had parades because they would kill off people or conquer them to the point to where they had to do whatever they wanted, make slaves of them. Either way, they would kill off of people usually, right? And then you couldn't bring your army back in yet and your slaves back in because you couldn't have an army past a certain line in Rome. Okay. So this is what you did. The person would send word to the Senate and say, I would like, because they weren't supposed to have kings at that point. And then eventually they had kings and stuff, but they weren't supposed to have kings yet. So what did you do? You sent in word that you basically wanted to be celebrated for your triumph, right? You wanted to send in word. How you doing, Tremont? I'm sorry. How you doing, Jeremy? So you sent in word that you want to be celebrated for your triumph. You said, how much does it matter? It matters if you're still doing stuff, if you're carrying on stuff. Because if you're carrying on evil, then it matters. Just because you don't know it's evil doesn't mean it doesn't matter. That's like if somebody grows up being slapped every day, and so they slap their spouse every day. Just because you don't know where it came from doesn't mean it doesn't matter. But look up the doctrine of discovery, see if it matters. Right? you know. Once again, you try to depreciate, but we appreciate. I appreciate you even doing that, right? So here we go, right? If you're looking at a triumph, so you killed off of people, you did all that, you made slaves, you bring them in, you ask for permission, you get to dress in purple. The Senate could only have a slice of purple because they were in power of everybody, but they couldn't be kings, right? But then you get to wear purple, which represents royalty for a whole day. And then you have what's called a parade. So everybody in Rome has to make sure that they celebrate you. They come out and they would make these huge tapestries. They would make these huge artistic renderings. They would change the story of actually what happened. Even people that are into Roman history way more than I will admit to you that the Romans that would win would embellish a lot to be able to say how much that they won by, when sometimes they didn't even really win, or sometimes they didn't really take over like they did, but they would ask permission to have a parade. And so everybody would come out, and the victors, the people who won and created victims, because you can't, by word definition, you cannot have a victor without a victim. You cannot have a victim without a victor. The victor kills off people and kills off their society and makes them slaves and makes them victims, right? And therefore, they would march everybody. They would have the soldiers sing these wild songs about talking about how they were having sex with the women that they came across and how they took their gold, and they'd be very deviant in their presentation and all these things, and they would march that across Rome. And everybody would laugh and cheer and all that. And then you would bring the slaves through. And then at the end, the ultimate victim, which was the former head of state or country that they had taken over, they would march them in front too. And so at that big parade deck that y'all see, where people would usually do a salute or something now, and everybody cheers at the end for this person or whatever. What they were doing is that they would bring him in, and just like at the Coliseum, how y'all saw in Gladiator, thumbs up or thumbs down, or we don't know if it was this way, we don't know if it was this, something they did with their thumb. They would say whether the person got to live or die, and often the person would die, and they would actually kill the person in front of everybody, and Rome would celebrate because these victors had defeated the victims. So today, you come out on a day like, I don't know, Thanksgiving, and have a Thanksgiving Day parade, and you put it on television, and you talk about how you have Thanksgiving. The word Thanksgiving, by the way, that's a lie, because the first things first, Abraham Lincoln eventually made that a holiday. But Thanksgiving in its original form was supposed to be a day of fasting. But y'all come out, you celebrate a day where natives were killed off, all those things. You make sure that you say it's great for America and all this. You say that you're thankful for Squanto or Tisquantum. Tisquantum was actually a slave who actually was taken to Spain and then taken to England, and then was able to make his way back with other people on the prison colony trip coming back to the Americas. Like, that's how that actually happened. So that's why, even though you were taught in school, oh yeah, it was just a blessing. The Christians there, the Puritans, they just thought he randomly spoke English. No, he was a former slave who tried to help them to be able to enslave his own people, because he had a Sambo spirit, or what some of y'all would call an Uncle Tom spirit. That's what happened. Now, why are we so unified over the lie, where people will fight for Thanksgiving? And Thanksgiving is not even a day for eating. Thanksgiving, if you even use it in the Eurocentric original fashion, it's supposed to be a day of fasting. That's what it's for. But we unify over lies. We love to unify over lies. It is not the lie that separates, it is the truth that separates. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Right? Like, it is not the truth that keeps you together, it is lies. People love to stay together over lies. Martin Luther King Jr., we celebrated his birthday since the day that he died, right? But now, he died in 1968. However, we didn't celebrate as a country until 1992. We unify over lie. And when we unify over Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we don't talk about what he did. We just go, oh yeah, who got the cookout? Right? Who cooking what, whatever? What you fried? What you need me to bring? I'll bring the cups. I'll bring the chips. I'll bring this. I'll bring this. I'll bring the rack of lamb. I'll bring. Even if you believe he was an agent, that's fine. What I'm saying is, when people come out with MLK Day, they're doing what? They're dealing with the lie. People talk about, oh, he got shot and that's how he died. No, it's not. His family won a case in court and got money when they sued the state, because it wasn't that he died because he was shot in the head. He died because he was smothered with a pillow in the hospital. But we unify over the lie. Oh, it's so terrible that he died because of the shot to the head. Now, he might have died because of the shot to the head. He might have lived. Who knows? He was still alive. He was smothered with a pillow. His wife and his children, they sued the state. His lawyer has came out and since talked about this for decades. His family lawyer. Yeah, you could talk about Leif Erikson for sure, right? But we don't want to talk about that. Who smothered him? There were three men that were in a room that came in and they smothered him. You can go ahead. There's books written on it and stuff like that. I don't have the exact names at this time, but there's books written on it with witnesses and everything that have come out. And his family won a case in court. Go to Google Scholar. If you haven't heard of it, Google Scholar is a great place to study law. Go to Google Scholar. You'll be able to study the case for yourself. Now these are things that are truth. I'm not even telling, but watch this. People coming on, oh, this doesn't matter. Why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about? Because it's not the lie that separates us. It's the truth. When the truth is given, the truth creates freedom. And people that are free, they don't think like people that are bound. That's what they don't want. They don't want you to think about people that are bound, or I'm sorry, that are free. They want you to remain bound. Here's another lie for you, right? Here's another lie. You're free, but you pay taxes. How are you free? How you doing, Brother TJ? How you doing, Sunshine? Go, if you like the details of it or whatever, or you're actually trying to find the details, I've already submitted to you places that you can go and look, right? Google is free. Amen. Right? The library is free, right? If you don't want to use Google, right? The truth creates freedom. You think that you're free and you pay taxes. See, it's weird that people who pay taxes will try to talk to me about truth, right? But you don't even realize that you can't pay taxes unless you're in debt. And if you're in debt by law, you're a slave. Those who are in debt are slaves. A slave is in debt. A debt is if somebody in debt to somebody is a slave. I say that somebody go, oh no, that's not true. Yeah, it's very true because you can be a non-citizen national on paper if you know how to get your paperwork together. I don't know, but I'm glad you're listening, right? Right. Hopefully, I'm giving something that's worthy of you listening to. Thanks for being part of the community, Wesley. Right. So if you pay taxes, you're not free, but you're unified. What do they even say? All these people, even from, and I love listening to like people like Jim Rohn, but Jim Rohn is out there pay taxes because that's what a great American citizen does. You don't have to do that. The only guarantee in life is, you know, but you think you're free, but you pay taxes. How are you free? You're in debt. A certain person who's in debt is a slave. Your birth certificate, it has a border around it. That border around it is a bond, right? And you were the stocks and bonds. You think that this country is literally like for real. You think that the country is $30 trillion in debt, going on $31 trillion in debt. Real talk. You think that that's true. Which one of you, if you had $30 trillion, would let somebody take all $30 trillion of your money and they haven't paid it back yet? Of course, this country's not in debt. Each birth certificate represents millions of dollars. You are the collateral. You are the stock. And there's a bond that you're worth. And they cash in by saying, hey, yeah, we don't have gold or silver to back up our money, but we'll print out more money and just go ahead and say that these people are the stock. So the country's not in debt. The country's not in debt. This is why people don't want you to be sovereign. This is why people don't want you to stop paying taxes. The second that you start living as a sovereign and you separate yourself from the lie, what happens? The second you separate yourself from the lie is the separate that now, wait a minute, we don't have power and we can't pay off our debts because we don't have slaves that represent debt. If we don't have slaves that represent debt, we can't pay off our debts. Once again, Christopher Columbus is a cautionary tale. Stop being unified under a lie. Stop being unified under a lie. Yeah, you only are unified under lies, but truth separates you. When you stop being, watch this, when you stop being an American citizen and become a non-citizen national or a Moor or a freedman or whatever you want to call yourself, indigenous, etc., you're in a whole different category of human being. Yeah, most really all of them, but some slaves get better treatment. So if you're better at capitalism, or if you have more system to where you control more things, then you basically can live as a sovereign, even if you don't have it on paper. You said you're merely restating. Yeah, Judge Joe Brown, he said that sovereignty is a lie. Uh, I mean, that's fine. Judge Joe Brown, is he's one of many sources you can go to, and I think Judge Joe Brown has a lot of decent things to say. To say that sovereignty is a lie is not true though, because hey, native tribes, a lot of them are supposed to be sovereign nations. And by the way, law dictates that if you're native in any way, shape, or form, you should be able to choose whatever nation you decide to be a part of. Right? The only thing that makes you a United States citizen is that you deal with benefits and privileges. You know that if somebody goes to jail, when they get out of jail, they can't get money, even if they deserve, or well, maybe you wouldn't say they deserve, but even if you would think, hey, they should be able to get, forget a stipend or whatever, they should be able to get like SSI, right? They can't get SSI because they owe money. Why? Because when you were in prison, you owe the corporation that you were in prison for. Excuse me. That's what we're doing. That's what we're dealing with. You're in a corporation, right? If you're in prison, you had a job. Anybody who's been in prison, they tell you, when you're in prison, you have a job. Yeah, that's why they say you paid your debt to society, right? You paid your debt. You were a slave. But all people are supposed to pay their debt to society. You pay taxes. Yeah, we have classes on this. Matter of fact, we're in the middle of Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2 for the third semester right now. So it'll be actually this week. Yeah, we have the convocation coming 14th through the 16th. But if on Tuesdays we do Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2. Praise Yah for that, Henry. Praise Yah for that, right? Like we're just giving truth. Truth separates. At a certain point, like I separate myself. Why do I want to be connected to a lie? Well, it causes us to work together. Well, if you work together, but you're still a slave, why would you live the rest of your days a slave? Why not live on your feet rather than be unified on your knees? Why not die on your feet than be unified on your knees? It's freezing. I apologize. I can't. Where I am, it says that I got a signal, perfect signal. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. Sometimes they do freeze this stuff though, and people be saying mad lies about what we're doing to try to freeze it. So, you know, but it's okay. It's okay. Right. And we're recording this. By the way, if you saying that this is freezing on you, we're on YouTube. We record these on YouTube. If you want to come to YouTube live, you can look up hashtag FindKofi, hashtag FIND, like you're looking for something. And then my name, Kofi, hashtag FindKofi. We're on YouTube right now at the same time. Right. However, you want to be what? You want to be free. You want to be free, but you're in a lie. Columbus is a cautionary tale about how lies unify, but truth separates. That's what we really want to talk about today. I know people want to go all different types. I'm not here for the Republican Democrat part of it because that's a lie too. Matter of fact, I'm not here for the democracy part of the conversation. You know why? Because democracy is a lie. You know how I know democracy is a lie? And I'm not saying democracy does not exist or is not a real word. I'm telling you democracy as far as being a United States citizen is a lie. You know why? Because you can look in your Constitution and you will not find the word democracy. Right? That's like look in your Constitution. Look in your Constitution and show me where it says democracy. You're gonna lie. Matter of fact, Madison, who you guys call your fourth president, Madison, what? Madison came out and was upset and frustrated and mad and irritated. He said, y'all need to stop telling them about this stuff. They think democracy is real. They were like, we're not. He said, we're not in a democracy. That's your fourth president, right? Virginia slave owner. Right? Washington, Virginia slave owner, Jefferson, Virginia slave owner, Madison, Virginia slave owner, Monroe. That's the first 4 out of 5. What's your country built on? Was it built on freedom? And they kept putting Virginia slave owners in. Heck, the only reason Washington, D.C. exists because George Washington took part of the Virginia land that he owned and basically turned it into a place where he put a White House, a manor on it, and then put slaves around it, had overseers on it. You call it Washington, D.C., but still to this day, you can get off on a metro stop on the Orange Line where George Washington University is and come up from there. And when you come up, guess where you'll be coming up to? You'll be coming up to a place called Foggy Bottom. That's the name of the metro stop. It's called Foggy Bottom because it was swampland that slaves lived on. But you think that you live in a democracy. You said it's a constitutional republic. You don't want to be in a democracy. Well, yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a democracy, and I'm not trying to be in a constitutional republic either. Because what has that constitutional republic done for people? Oh, well, see, you make money and you do this. If it wasn't for, I mean, shoot, I've gone to Africa and made money. I mean, you're not the only place where people can make a living for themselves. You're not. you know. Oh, well, go back to Africa. Well, I mean, shoot. Well, the Moors are the one that allowed America to come into existence as far as the way you know it. So, shoot, if I go back to Africa, I'll go to the place that's over you. You just don't know that about Morocco. You don't know that it's a Moroccan sultan. You don't know that they had to change the constitution. They were already had a constitution. They changed the constitution because it was a Moroccan sultan that said that I need your constitution to look more like Muslim law, like Sharia law. And then when he signed off on it, guess what? They had a ceremony that everybody saw. And then there's pictures, paintings of George Washington in a second ceremony where he's wearing a fez and he's wearing Moorish garb. We're not supposed to admit the truth because truth separates. You got to have your eyes open to see that. Or what about the fact that there are Moorish native tribes? There are indigenous tribes here to the Americas that are Moorish on paper. When you talk about the Haudenosaunee or the Iroquois, you know they're Moorish. You know the Confederate flag that they came up with, they copied off of the Haudenosaunee people's flag. That flag wasn't something they came up with. That little Confederate jack that people still wave to be able to say the South should rise again and this is where my people came from and all that. That's not even your flag. You change it and you use it for something negative. It's like the Nazis. The Nazis, they changed it. They use it for something negative. right? What you call the swastika, man, that's an old way of talking about Tibetan peace. But they used that to unify, to be able to kill off other people and to tell you it was okay to do. Once again, this is a cautionary tale. It's not just about Columbus. It's not about your political influence or who politically influenced you or what you think somebody should vote about. This is a cautionary tale that truth separates you from this lie, and that what unifies you is the lie itself. You are unified in something that is messing you up. And why keep doing the same thing and getting insane results? Is that not the definition that everybody likes, the working definition from Albert Einstein, that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result? Do you not want to get something greater at this point? Right? Do you not want to get something greater at this point? Do you not want to have a greater conversation than just Republican versus Democrat at this point? Is it can we stop being limited? Can we stop putting a cap on this? Stop capping to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. You keep putting a cap on this, that's all there is. There's only two parties. There's only two ways of looking at things. There's only black versus white. Like, do you not comprehend that even George Washington's wife, she was a brunette, she was a brunette, brun, or in français, or brun in French, literally means brown. So she was somebody who was a higher class person that could pass for white, but she really was part brown or part black. Do you not realize that they're running game on you at this point? You said about protest by working through the holiday. I don't work. I don't have to have a 9 to 5. I'm in my work. You have a job. I have a work. And this is what I do. See, that's freedom. The lie is, hey, if you really want to go ahead and be against Columbus Day, you need to have a job. No, 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 no. That's a lie. Right? There's a lie for the pit of hell. And I'm here to love the hell out of people today and to give them a word that's going to help them to be able to release some of these things. Right? You gotta check in with your master. I get to talk to your master eye to eye. You got to look up to your master. I talk to him. You heard me? That's real. Right? They got you believing that the 9 to 5 is the thing. If you really want to go ahead. No, 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 no. Like George Washington had no 9 to 5. You look up to him. Uh-oh. Donald Trump ain't got no 9 to 5, and he ain't even had none. He had his father's money. He invested. I give him credit. He did what he's supposed to do, but he ain't had to work no 9 to 5 to get where he was. Why do I? I look masters in the eye. I'm the master of my own destiny, and really, that destiny is something that was given to me from a higher power. So I'm the master of that destiny. A master is a teacher. I look other teachers or masters in the eye. You look up to your master. Say, Master, will you allow me to come in and work this job? Master, will you help me out so I can pay my mortgage? Master, will you allow me to go ahead and pay debt and pay taxes and be a slave? Like, that's your master. We breaking generational curses over here. And if you were smart about it, you would realize it's not just a generational curse of Yasil or of Africans or of indigenous people, but even all people have the generational curse upon them that says work and work and work for somebody else so that they can take a better vacation next year. That's your master. That's your teacher. But we've separated ourselves. See, watch this. I'm reporting to you. I was ported in that system a long time ago, right? I was ported there, and I decided to leave. And I went and I ported somewhere else, and I got some information, even from the people that you look up to, who said, "Yeah, you shouldn't be doing stuff like that." We don't. And I said, "Cool. You know what? Let me go back and report. Let me go back to my people. Let me go back to those who are like-minded. Let me go back to those who are trying to become better. Let me go back to those that are greater. Let me go back to those that want to come out of the system. Let me go back to those that are tired of being slaves. And let me tell them there's a different way. There's a better way. You're in his system. You're in this system. You're listening to his story, but his story is not just black and white. There's a lot of people up there that don't care about you no matter what your color is. As long as you slave out to them, they could care less." So I came back to report to you that, hey, I went and I talked to the masters. I listened from them. I learned from them. And they said that, hey, you can come out, right? It's going to be more difficult for you because you down there. But if you want, you can work, not job, but you can work. And in your work, you'll be able to come out. I came back to let people know, yeah, we can work things out. You can work your way out. I've come back. I've reported. I left where I was ported at. I took a ship over. I reported over here, and they said, "Oh yeah, what you talking about ain't really real. This is the way stuff works." I came back to report to people to say, if you want a way out, come on, come on. That's all I'm doing. That's my goal. That's my life. That's my work. So if you got checking for a 9 to 5, that's cool. Check in with your master. But I talk to your master eye to eye. Now, your master doesn't always like that, because when I talk to him eye to eye, I also talk to his slaves eye to eye. And I tell them that, hey, you don't have to look up to me. Pull yourself up and look at me eye to eye. If you want to talk about equality, that's equality. Look at me eye to eye. Stop looking at me as if I'm greater. I'm no greater than you. There's one that's greater than all of us, but I'm not him. Yeah, we have classes, like I said, or like was put in the chat by a couple people. I know my wife said it, and Sister Barbara thinks it's Shantae. Excuse me, Minister Select Shantae. However, just look on our TikTok channels, Kofi_43, this one, or even Kofi_42, the one that we use for the evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, and look for classes on there. Just click on our link tree and look for information to be able to contact us. You can text us, you can email us, and I'll make sure I get back to you. Usually it'll be me personally. Right? Am I making money spouting BS? Interesting. Yeah. You think that I don't work a 9 to 5 without money? And it's not BS anyways. But you think I don't? You think that I don't know. You go ahead and you call it BS and whatever it is that you want, right? But for those that have an ear to hear, 444, that's cool. For those who have an ear to hear, those that are tired of this, like, once again, you unified in a lie, and you will attack me ad hominem. You have nothing to be able to tell me why what I say is BS. See, that's when I know that I'm doing the right thing. You're coming at me because I'm giving truth, and truth separates. It'll show those people that just want to be locked up and don't mind watching other slaves that are beneath them be less than. There you go, retired at 39, right? I just turned 40, right? And I haven't been doing the 9 to 5 thing probably since I was, well, I don't know. I've done some side hustles and stuff like that here and there, right? But at the end of the day, like, if you want to call it BS, you call it whatever. The reality is that's how the people you look up to live. They make slaves out of people. Christopher Columbus was somebody who made slaves out of people. Christopher Columbus was somebody who raped little girls. Christopher Columbus was somebody who had children hit with hammers in the head because he wanted to save money on bullets. Christopher Columbus is somebody who literally destroyed the land. Christopher Columbus was a victor, and he made victims out of people and tried to destroy a whole group of people, even though they still exist. You said, where's my proof? Christopher Columbus is my proof of what I'm talking about. Now, once again, if you want to look up some stuff, go on Google Scholar and look up cases and look up the same words Yusuf said. Go on YouTube and look up somebody named Yusuf L and listen to him and take part of his program so you can learn. Go ahead and take classes, Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2. We have them, but you probably wouldn't want to take that because you think everything I say is a lie. How about this? Look up 28 USC 300215A and look up what the United States says about itself as a corporation. Do further research on what the United States Corporation says, and says that their corporation's headquarters in Washington, D.C. Go ahead and look up the obelisk in Washington and D.C., Columbia on top of the Senate building, and look up where that came from in Kemet. My proof is something that is his story. I don't even have to tell my story. I can tell his story. You don't want to believe his story because his story tries to tell you that this stuff isn't there, but he always left you breadcrumbs. Hansel and Gretel, he left you breadcrumbs. The witch, the controller, the one you need to be aware of, he left you breadcrumbs. Go look. Look at Christopher Columbus' journal and go look at what he says. Right. Look at his journals. Look at what he wrote. Look up Ivan von Sertima before they were, before Columbus. So they were here before Columbus. See what he wrote out. And by the way, people don't like him because of the color of his skin, but people don't want to acknowledge that his teacher was a white guy. And people don't want to acknowledge that his teacher, the white guy, was from indigenous people who will tell you about the Olmecs and the Olmec she. It's not that there's not proof, it's that you want to continue to live the lie. If you would simply open up a document, you can find it. Look up Willie Lynch letter, written in 1712, which means that George Washington's parents and Thomas Jefferson's grandparents would have been there to be able to hear how you're supposed to make sure that people become into not indentured servitude, but into slavery and remain so for the rest of their lives. I don't know who Allison Janney is, right? But this is wild. Like, people are debating reality. You see what I'm saying? Because the truth separates. It's the lie that unifies. When I tell you the truth, you got to find if you're going to stay in truth or you're going to stay in the lie. A lot of y'all are hokey pokey. You want to put your left foot in one day, but then when it doesn't serve you, want to take your left foot out. And then when it serves you, put your left foot in and you stir it up, you shake it all about. And you keep turning yourself around, right? And they told you about this when you were in your childhood. It was a cautionary tale. I'm exaggerating some on that, right? But it was a cautionary tale, just like Columbus is a cautionary tale, right? This is to separate you. This is to separate you, right? Y'all talking about science versus religion. Whether you believe religion came first or science came second, and science came second, or that science came first and religion came second, they come from the same source. You might as well try to figure out the source that they came from. But you unified in lies. Well, is it Deshaun or Deshonda? I can read the word. Reach out to us. Look up the on our page. Look up the link tree. Contact us. Text us or email us. We try to get back to you. Right? It's the lies. We're sitting up here debating stuff that's not even true. Right? By the word, you debate religion. Religion literally means a legion of people that repetitively do the same thing. If you drink coffee, you religiously drink coffee. If you go for a run, you religiously go for a run. If you're going to wake up today and go to the store, a bunch of people are going to do that. You religiously go to the store. I don't care about your religion. I care about what your religion does for my people or for people who are like-minded. When I say my people, I don't just mean people that look like me. I mean people who are like-minded. Lies are unifying those. Truth separates. Can I show you something for those who are Bible thumpers? And I'm somebody who believes in the Bible, right? Not the same culture that has the Bible attached to it, but I believe in the Bible. Let me show you something that y'all don't even want to admit that's in your Bible. You ready for this? Luke chapter 12, verse 51. Read it sometime. Read your Bible. It'll bless you. It's amazing how many people talk about their Bible, but don't read it. Read your Bible. What does your Bible say in Luke chapter 12? This is the master. This is Yahshua, who some of y'all call Jesus. This is Yahshua speaking. And he says in Luke chapter 12, verse 51, he said, do you think I came? There would be peace on earth, that everybody would get along? That's how he starts. He said, wait a minute. Do you think that I really came over here? Those who said they believe in him. He said, you think I came that there would be peace? Now, wait a minute. Goodwill, peace towards men, all that. No, that's Christmas. That's Saturnalia. That's something else. He said, I came to be able to give truth. And he said, truth is going to separate. Luke chapter 12, verse 53. He said, truth is going to cause mother to be against daughter and father to be against son and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law and father-in-law against son-in-law. He said, your family ain't even going to be able to be together. You want your family to be together? Keep up lies. Uh-oh. No. See, now you see, I can't stand this and you super religious. No. I'm talking about he tried to break you free of religion. He said, your family is not going to be connected when you find out the truth. He said, your mama going to be upset when you tell her about the truth because she was raised in a lie. He said, your son is going to be upset when you tell him, son, this is the truth. Because truth doesn't unify, it divides. I know you don't like that, but you think that all this stuff is there. No. There are going to be people who are going to believe the truth, and there are going to be people that believe lies, period. That's Luke chapter 12, verse 51, and then read all the way through verse 53. He's to Yahshua himself, the Messiah himself. If you believe in him, he told you that I didn't come to tell you stuff that was going to make everybody come together. I know it's kumbaya, my Lord, but that ain't what he came for. See, that's why you ain't ready for a fight. You're losing a fight. You're losing the war because you don't realize that those who are truth got to be ready to go to war. But those that are in lie, you can live in peace as a slave as much as you want. You said Bible was created in 1611. No problem with that is that the 1611 King James Version isn't even the first version of the Bible in English. It's definitely not the first version of the Bible if you go to the Latin. It's definitely not if you go to the Greek. And it's definitely not if you go to Ofori, which is the original Hebrew. So once again, we talk about these things, but truth separates. If you live in a truth that says that King James, which by the way was somebody who was African, people don't like that either. Just like Queen Catherine was African, people don't like that either. Nevertheless, right? You're not willing to have that conversation. We can't even really have a real conversation. We can't even really have a real conversation. King James wrote about demonology. He wrote about many different religions, sure. So if you're going to go ahead and say that he wrote about demonology, yeah, I didn't say King James followed the Bible. Matter of fact, King James didn't really write the Bible either. He hired people to do it. He just overlooked it, but overlooking it as a king didn't mean that he touched it. And by the way, who did he hire? Didn't he hire Afro people or Hebrew people to do it? You only talk about the priests and stuff, but didn't he hire Afro people or Hebrew people? Yeah, King James is African. He got an African mom and daddy. Just because you have iconoclasts that change the color of his skin doesn't mean that that's not who he was. It's like when people talk about Septimius Severus, if you know who that is. Septimius Severus, he was an African emperor. So you can't talk about just because he was African, he was doing righteous things, because as an African emperor, he was killing all folk too. He was making victims too. It's not as simple as black and white. But somebody hears me say, as a black man, hears me say da 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 da, they see me as a black man say da da da, and now all of a sudden what? Oh, see, he's reverse racist and he's a nationalist and this and that or whatever. No, I'm telling you the truth. And I've gotten to a place in my life where I can care less about being separated. Make me the black sheep. I was raised as that. Make me the black sheep. I'll be the black sheep all day, every day, right? You didn't mind me being the black sheep when you were cutting wool off to be able to go ahead and make sure that your family's warm. Now I take my own wool and make sure that I warm my family by embracing them, and you upset with me. If you didn't like me when I was speaking what unified you together, then why should I be upset if you didn't like me? Look, I used to be the token. I'll tell the truth. I used to be a token. I used to think that I need to act as white as possible. I used to, as a little child, used to sit up there and be like, man, why can't I be white? Why can't I have straight hair? Why can't I be affected? Because see, I'm raised by a father that was really dark skinned, and a mother, well, not really, but he was dark skinned, and a mother who could pass for white. And her family didn't like the fact that both families didn't like the fact that they got together. Right. And my sister and brother, they look like a mixed child or whatever you want to call it. They look like that. I don't look like that unless you really look at me hard. If you see a picture of my mom and me, you'd be like, whoa, right? But especially without, all the hair and everything, you'd be like, whoa, okay. You see a picture of me when I was in the military? Oh, okay. Right. But people can only see what? In black and white. They can only see, there's no gray area. There's no truth. There's nothing. It's all got to be what I think, or it's got to be false. It's got to be exactly what I think, or it's got to be false. Well, I didn't say that I agree with the thing of acting white. That's why I even put up the quotation marks. No such thing as a white person, because there's no such color as white. Right? White is the absence of color. Really, white even means bright or clear. There's supposed to be no color in white. So if you can't see through it, technically it ain't even white. But we'll leave that alone. All right. That's a conversation for another day. But I'm not talking about black or white people, because I don't agree with even the notion of there being a white person. Like, they had to teach. See, this is the danger. This is what I'm saying. The thing that unified, even in being against each other, that unified you in your fight against each other. Like, somebody had to teach you that there was a such thing as white. A lot of people who were around, they didn't know what white was. May I tell you something? The Greeks that you guys hate so much, and the Romans, they weren't white people. I can't say they were African, but they were people of color. I know, just because you think King Leonidas, because you saw a Hollywood presentation of him, and he was this bad this bad AM who was out there doing this and that or whatever. But the reality is, King Leonidas, he probably looked closer to me. And they've actually been telling the truth now on YouTube videos that they talk about him. They actually start painting them brown. Greeks and Romans, a lot of them. Julius Caesar, he probably looked closer to me, my shade. Doesn't mean I rock with Julius Caesar just because he looks black. Christopher Columbus probably looked darker skinned, right? Iconoclastism is real. Look up what an iconoclast is. Matter of fact, I know y'all think of Colin Farrell, some of you now, when you think of Alexander the Great. Guess what? Alexander the Great's daddy was a Macedonian, and his daddy, as a Macedonian, is considered to be dark skinned. So how in the world you get a dark skinned daddy, unless he's somebody who would have been, dealing with the lack of pigmentation, right? Unless he was a albino or had some kind of albinoism, possible, but he's not described as having that, right? He would have looked like his daddy. It doesn't change anything. What it changes is that we have to stop living lies. And I didn't see, and what it changes is it's okay for him to be dark skinned, and it doesn't mean that a light skinned or a white person or whatever, it doesn't mean that that person's less than you just because they're white. Just like it doesn't mean that just because somebody made a doctrine of discovery, which literally says that we can discover your land if there's no white Christian males on it, that means that we should label that as wrong. We should label Idi Amin as wrong, African. We should label Papa Doc as wrong, African, or if you want to say native, indigenous, whatever. We should label Papa Doc as wrong, if you want to say African, indigenous, whatever. We should label King Saul in the Bible as wrong, person of color, black, African ties. right? His people mixed with Kemet, mixed with Cush, mixed with Libya, mixed with Canaanites. You said most people don't care about color. Okay. Okay. You know how I know most people care about color when they make that statement? Somebody say, I don't care about color at all. Well, if you didn't care about color at all, why do you even make the statement to say you don't care about it? Like, if you don't care about it, then you wouldn't say anything about it. I think that color is beautiful. My wife is a herbalist. She's taught me how to be able to identify plants by color. So I see a certain color. Watch this. If I see a white carrot or a white root that comes out the ground, I may or may not be able to eat that. But if I see it's an orange carrot or orange root that comes out the ground, I can eat that because of the color. There's no problem with the color. The color doesn't mean that one's better than the other. Both of them, they medicate in a different way. I might want a different color carrot depending on what I want, what I need. A yellow rose does different things than a red rose. Did you know that? They're not just there because they have different positions. They do different things. They serve different things. They have a different culture, even, if you will. An Irish lass with white skin, even though I don't believe in that, but whatever, with white skin and great red hair, that is a great Irish lass, right? An African queen with dark skin and great hair that locks together, that is a great African queen. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're so busy saying that you don't see color or color doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter? That's who the person is. I would hate, I'm married to the greatest wife in the world, so this doesn't happen. I would hate, though, if my wife was like, man, I don't love you. I don't love nothing about your skin. I love the fact that she says your skin is amazing from time to time. I love her skin. I love her black skin. I love her seminal skin. It identifies her as who she is. When I look at her, it's part of what I love. When I look in her eyes, I love the color of her eyes. Thank you, baby. I love the color of her eyes. I'm sorry. How you doing, Cash? My bad. Brandy, how you doing? If I didn't say so already. Right? And by the way, if you're on YouTube, all you got to do is look in the description box for the classes. It has a list of things you can do to be able to take the classes. Right? I think it's the last link on there. Right? So you have this weird thing in your mind that says that because I would dare talk about color, it means that I think that I'm better than you. No, that's somebody else's culture. Somebody else said that I should be able to be a chattel slave because of my color. See, if you're blind, if you're colorblind, let's just take it to the physical. If you're colorblind, then, we need to help you, right? Or we need to make sure certain things are in place that you can see. Or you might not, maybe you shouldn't drive in your car. For those who you still drive and don't travel, you should make sure that you don't drive in certain areas. That's why you got to have a sight test. You got to you got to have an eye test before you can go ahead and get that license, right? And if you colorblind in certain ways, they won't let you drive. And if you are going to drive, they say, well, first you got to go and you got to get some glasses that help you to be able to see the color you can't see. You hear what I'm saying? Just see, but all this is once again based off of a lie. Even that, I don't see color. If you don't see color, I don't want you to be behind the wheel. Right? Don't tell me how you don't see color. If you say color doesn't matter, color matters. Why? Melanin matters. Everybody who exists, if you are a human being, you have melanin. Period. I don't care how light you want to call yourself, whatever color you want to call yourself, you have color. And the color comes from melanin. Melanin comes from the pineal gland. That's stimulated from the pituitary gland. You said the idea of race is just a tool used to further divide and control us. Well, what does the word race mean? Before it became attached to a color, race just meant a competition. Racism was a system in which European nations were fighting against each other, trying to see who could be better. And by the way, that happened in Africa. By the way, that happened in China. That's how China exists now. That happened in Japan. There were a bunch of people and one person won. That's how Japan started coming over and abusing China. That's why they tried to come over and abuse Korea, right? Because of race, competition. It wasn't about color. It's about we're trying to get more. Now, why did racism eventually become a system based off of color? Doctrine of discovery. Right? We're not going to act. Yeah, it's a social construct. That means that something was constructed off of a society. Who is the society that was in charge that constructed what you think of when you hear the word race? Because if I tell my son we're going to have a race, he's not going to think about color as he exists, though, in the society. See, even as much as I talk about it, and even though he knows there are people who don't like him, people have said as much. to him. Little children have said as much to my little child, how much they don't like him because of the color of his skin. Right? So even though he knows that that's false, because he's still great regardless, and he'll still try to love up on these folks because he's been taught to do so. That's his heart. I love my little boy's heart. That's his heart. He loves to do that. Even still, though, he knows that there's a construct out there that comes from society that says that he don't fit in, because he gets to be blessed and go and do things around the world that a lot of children, black or white, don't get to do. So when he goes up to certain people of a certain society, their social construct shows up, and he has to be able to prove himself by just being himself. And when he learns how to do that, and he does do that, guess what happens? People begin to acknowledge how great he is, because he's not trying to say his color doesn't matter. He's saying, in spite of he's saying my color does not determine my heart. It's part of who I am, but it's not my passion. So when you say, yeah, oh, blah, blah, doesn't matter, whatever, you can say whatever you want, but I see the social construct. I was in the United States military. When I looked exactly how you wanted me to, and I had on the suit, or I had on the Cracker Jack uniform, or I was helping others, or I was getting medals, or I was out there shooting on behalf of the country, or I was dragging bodies to make sure that people could be able to make it back home, and giving people American flags. And when I still go and I do services for people today, if they were in the United States of America, I will still, out of respect for what they did, I will still pop a salute, because they deserve to be honored for the fact that they gave their life for a lot of things that some of y'all will argue and won't even give your life for. And I respect that about them, even though people like you would disrespect them because we have a bond that you wouldn't even know about. Some of you who are arguing, I'm not saying all of you, but some of you don't even realize. Some of you don't even realize till I said it. Yeah, I served just like you did. We should have a bond that goes past color or a disagreement, but some of y'all can't even see it. Some of y'all wouldn't even think, hey, did you serve? Thank you for your service. You wouldn't even say that. Why? Because of the fact that I represent something that you think is separation. But the reality is we're unified over something. We should be blood brothers, because we were willing to shed our blood. Some of you did shed your blood. And if you did, I'm the first person that will recognize your service. Even when they say that you're terrible just because you're in the military, I'm the first person that'll say no. You said that's assumptions? Well, I'm telling you what happens on this live quite often. Go back to Africa. You ain't no good. What about the people that serve? That's been in the chat today, by the way. I'm not going off of assumptions. I'm telling you what happens. I'm on this every day, a lot of times twice a day. And that's what I hear a lot. So you can tell me about assumptions, but once again, you're the one assuming. You're the one that's coming in saying that I must be wrong, because you don't know me. Right? But we should be one. We should be constituents, comrades at the very least. See what I'm saying? So people will say all these different things or whatever, right? And by the way, those who came, we had a Born Day celebration or whatever. You saw one of the pictures, at least one of the pictures you guys saw, you would have seen me in uniform. I'm not making this stuff up, just like I'm not making anything else up. Columbus is a cautionary tale on how you are unified by lies instead of separating from liars by living in the truth. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Right? Like this is a cautionary tale that people want to continue to live in the lie. Right? People want to continue to live in the lie rather than live in the truth. And that's what we're dealing with. Truth separates, lies unify. See, here's the deal about a lie. A lie has to have enough truth in it to be able to get you to believe in it. The truth doesn't even have to make sense. This is another thing people don't talk about, because I keep giving you places you can look at this. People, I got to look at this and 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 look at this. You said Neil deGrasse Tyson? Yeah, he already problematic. Neil deGrasse Tyson is coming from a very Eurocentric thought process. I'm not saying he's not a smart brother at all. I'm just saying on that situation, he got that wrong. Like just plain wrong. Like Leif Erikson had already came over. So there were already Europeans that had came over. Right? People who go Viking, because Viking is a profession, it's not a people. Right? People who were Vikings, they literally, that was their profession. You said, and yet y'all still got enslaved. I'm not your slave. Bet you that. See, I'm free. And when I talk about freedom, you want to try and down where I came from, as if that's my pedigree. But keep going back to Kemet. Don't miss Cush. Don't miss the Moors. Don't miss the Carthaginians. And you're frustrated that I live with the power that they live in. I decide to stay in that power. I live in that power, and it frustrates people. Y'all still became slaves anyways. Whose slave am I? I don't pay a debt to this society because I'm not a slave to this society. You do that. You go holler at your master. You say that you bet in the next life I wouldn't want to be a black man. Well, first of all, my next life is going to be when I go on to glory. But I'm already living in my eternal power. And right now, I don't mind being a black man. I won't be a black man on paper in your society, because in your society, according to Black's Law Dictionary, you say that a person who's black, colored, Negro, African American, those are fake people, right? And I would never be attached to that fakeness of the birth certificate, the straw man, right? But I don't mind being myself ever, right? I don't mind being myself ever. If you don't believe there's a next life, that's fine. That's for you, right? But I don't mind being myself ever. Another nutcase, cool, no problem, because truth separates. People want to stay in the lie, stay unified over lie, and go ad hominem. You so what are you? I mean, I don't know. What are you? I know where I come from. I actually know my family lineage, so I know that I'm Taino. I know that I'm mixed with a lot of things, just like a lot of people are. I'm Cherokee, Taino. I have a little bit of Wampanoag, more than likely. I'm not 100% sure about that fact. Omekshi, Shwe, Mali, Yasda, Kemet, Kush, Sudan, South Sudan, but Sudan. That's who I am, right? But if somebody says black, I know what they mean in the social construct. So in the social construct, yeah, I love being black, right? Once again, who taught you to hate black? Who taught you to hate your hair? Who taught you to hate your nose? Who taught you to hate those lips? Who taught you to hate your hips? You said oldest human remains were found in Hungary? No, not true at all. There's Hungarian scientists that disagree with that, but if that's what you want to keep, so be it. Either way, the older everybody gets, guess what? You find they're more melanated no matter what. I've looked it up. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's not true, right? Even when you go well past Lucy, for those who believe in evolution, because I don't believe that Lucy is a human being, but those who believe in evolution, fine. Go back, look at her. There's people that older than her. Once again, go look it up. Like, I don't have to agree with your sensibility. And once again, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to agree with my sensibility. I'm not here that we would leave an agreement. I'm not here to save the world. Like, I know that there's people that will separate from this. That's why truth separates and lies unify. A lot of people want to be unified over a lie. I've stopped being unified over lies. I don't unify. I don't come together with liars anymore. I believe in Yahshua Mashiach. You want to call him Jesus Christ, cool, right? But I don't identify with lies anymore. I just don't, right? George Washington. I cannot tell a lie, Father. I never chopped down a cherry tree. Man, George Washington was out there whipping the slaves, raping the slaves, died of syphilis because of it. I'm not going to live by that lie. He's not even the first president. Right? He's not even the first president, but y'all talk about George Washington, the father of your nation. He ain't even the first president, right? you know, but we unify over the lie. And when somebody says, hey, why did George Washington, why is he quoted? Why did he write down? Why did he say and somebody else wrote down? Why does it say that he had two presidents that were his favorite when he wasn't even the president yet? But y'all call him the father of your nation. Y'all got that obelisk up. That's that Osiris stuff that he's trying to retell a comedic story, and you don't want to be honest about it. Or you just don't know. Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything. I'm not here to make everybody agree. I'm here to give you a different cultural context than what you have. That's it. And maybe if you see a different cultural context, you want to be free of an oppressive system. Once again, the only reason why you even celebrate Columbus Day in America is because Italian Americans, right, felt like they were being mistreated. You mistreated them. You treated them close to Negroes. Yes, you did. And so they needed somebody, and they faked that he was an Italian, even though they knew he wasn't, so that they can get some respect and have a day for themselves and say, see, respect us as Italians. And then when they felt like they got enough respect, then they came out and told you, oh, that was a lie. Right? Like even that is a cautionary tale. It's just a cautionary tale. Right? It's a cautionary tale that you will believe in a lie and you will unite on it. And so you've been so united on it because it causes you to move. It causes you to grow. It causes your jobs to happen, right? Under this thing that like the Americas were discovered by somebody who really didn't discover it. I mean, that's the reality. How do you discover something where people live? What are you celebrating at that point? Even if you don't know about the doctrine of discovery, which says the reason why he could discover it on paper is because the Pope said that if you discover lands that don't have white Christians on it, especially white Christian males, then it's not considered to be land and you can just take it because you discovered it. Well, if that's what you're celebrating, why would you celebrate that? And why would you say that doesn't matter? Why would you say that? Abraham looked like Kemetic people. So you do with that what you will. Why would you celebrate that? That's the question. Why are you so much into celebrating a lie? And why are you like, or unless you think it's okay to celebrate lies. If you are okay with celebrating lies, then do what you do. I blocked you because I didn't block anybody. The moderators blocked you, and if they blocked you, it's probably because you're being rude. You came over to YouTube to make sure that you can go on and still be against everything I'm saying, and that's cool. Welcome. Once again, you can depreciate. We'll appreciate. We'll lift you up. You came all the way over here to make sure that you can continue to say I'm wrong about this, that, and the third. Once again, though, here's the wild part. Why don't you look up what I'm saying? Look up and see. Is there proof that Africans were coming over here before Christopher Columbus? From people that don't look like me, don't have my same sensibilities or my same belief. See if people who are more like you, who are more about your sensibilities, are they saying the same thing that I'm saying? Why have they decided to start separating themselves and be on the side of truth more so than to be unified by lies? Is it a lie if I say that there's more pyramids in Georgia and Alabama, right, than there are anywhere else in the world? Is that a lie? Or do you just not know? You can call them mounds, but we know that they're pyramids. And if we look at the bigger mounds, the pyramids that are over in Indiana and Illinois, yes, over in Indiana and Illinois, then you will find Kemetic writing and Shui writing, and you will find Yashtil or Israelite writings on them. And you will even find that Europeans had been there years before Columbus. You can go to these places. I've taken videos and shown people. Right, I think it might just be on our Patreon, so maybe I can try and see if I can find it again and put it on open it up for everybody to see on public on YouTube. But I've been to these places and stood on the top of them. The Mississippians made them. You think that Mississippi is a state? Mississippi was a people, a native people who stretched way past just the state of Mississippi. You don't even know that Mississippians, they made pyramids. You don't even know that over in what you call Haiti and the Dominican, right? That was what Hispaniola first originally did, and then the French came over, and then the Spanish and the French split it, and the English tried to take over and all that. But before all that, you forget that the Taino people, they were already trading with West Africans. You said America wasn't founded; it was taken, just like every other country. I mean, if you want to say all countries were taken, well, there's some places where indigenous people used to be. Like there's still Kemetic people that live in Egypt, but Egyptians supposedly are the people that it's for. But there's a difference between Egypt and Kemet. There's native people that are still in the United States of America and in Canada and Mexico and Guatemala, et cetera, right? In Cuba, Cubano, Puerto Ricano, Dominicano, etc. They're still natives that are there, but you don't give them credit for being who they are. There's more Afro-Mexicans than there are African Americans. And a lot of them don't even say who they are, just like a lot of African Americans won't label themselves as such, which legally is probably better that they don't, because according to the Eurocentric law, you shouldn't be one. Right? Even the term Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving originally just meant a time of fasting. Why are you trying to engorge yourself? It's a different culture. It's different people. If you want to say it's taken or whatever, it's like when people talk about Spanish people that are still here, Mexicans, they need to go back over the border. A lot of them never went back home, and they don't want to be part of your system, so they never got the birth certificates that you wanted. They'd rather be separate and remain who they were. And legally, by law, technically, you're supposed to allow them to do that, but you won't allow them to do that. You even try to change the 14th Amendment. You created the 14th Amendment, right? If you're in that system, you created the 14th Amendment to make sure that people that were born on those lands have to be there. You can celebrate whatever the hell you want. Yeah, celebrate hell all you want. That's what Christopher Columbus brought. Celebrate it all you want. I don't have a problem with you celebrating it. This is not to be able to change your mind. You do whatever you want to do. I don't care what you want to celebrate. For those who don't want to celebrate hell, though, then we're going to love the hell out of you. We're going to speak the hell out of you. We're going to speak to the hell that you're trying to celebrate. And if you want to be on here, just realize we're going to talk about what you celebrate, just like you talk about us. But while you try to depreciate us, we'll appreciate you as a human being. Just because we disagree as human beings, just because you might be celebrating some things that's hell to others, doesn't mean that we won't acknowledge that you're a human being. See, it's a different culture. You hear me talking about Columbus and you hear me telling the truth. And you think that therefore I have to be unified in this hate that you have. So if you said that if you're part of something that said that it's okay to enslave people, then I'm saying it's okay to enslave you or okay to hate you. No, I'm not. No, you love the person and hate the sin. So there's intrinsically something wrong with morals of people who celebrate the death of others. Yeah. By the way, Day of the Dead, Dia de Muerte, that's not a indigenous thing. That's something that came over from Europe. Hallows Eve, that's not indigenous. That's something that came over from Europe. You're celebrating something that has to do with something causing death. Matter of fact, Hallows Eve, the reason why you put those turnips or pumpkins or fake skulls or whatever you're going to put in your yard or whatever, the reason is because the Druids used to tell people, give us the heads of people that have died or even sacrifice people. We want to put them out so that when the bad God or deity or deus or whatever, when this bad spirit comes by, right, who's going to ultimately at the winter solstice or Saturnalia, etc., who's going to ultimately show up at his highest point. We want him to not to see the souls, the third eye, the eye of Horus, the pineal gland. That's why they did those things. It came all the way over from Europe. That's not an indigenous thing. Indigenous to the Americas. That means people that originally were here before others came and killed them. That's what that is. That's why the biggest people who worship stuff on Christmas are pagans. There's more pagans and witches that celebrate Christmas than Christians. You know that. Do you know that? Maybe you don't. Right? It's a pagan holiday. It's not even a Christian is a mix and match of a bunch of different things. Cristianos, right? It's not even a Christian holiday. It's a pagan holiday. That's why Santa Claus flies. Santa Claus is one with who? How you doing, Minister Sonia? Santa Claus is one with who? Santa Claus is actually one with a bunch of different moving parts. Why is there coal? Krampus. Krampus is an evil, demonic figure from hell who drags little children down to hell, or will burn them, or will whip them, and will punish them, and will leave hot coals for bad children. They still dress up like Krampus in places like Germany. I think the Deutsch do it too. People in America sometimes do it, the United States of America. And some Canadians even do it from time to time. Uh-oh. That's not what you think it is. Right? But there's a lie that tells you that, oh, this holiday has to do with Christ, or we'll just call it Xmas because we shouldn't make it about Christ. It was never about Christ in the first place. Right? Because it's not a Christian or Christ-like or follower of Christ holiday. That's the truth. So if you really want to be into Christmas, then you got to separate yourself from the Bible, Or if you want to stop separating yourself from the Bible, you got to separate yourself from Christmas. But y'all want to kick it with both. Hallows Eve is an evil holiday that has to do with that same person. By the way, once again, why does Santa Claus fly? Santa Claus is also one with Odin. They put the Odin story in. Odin is somebody who flew around during the time when it was starting to get darker and darker. And when he flew around, people used to run into their house. So winter solstice, right, around December 25th, really would have been like December 20th, 21st, 22nd, somewhere in there. But around December 25th, everybody runs in their house. And you make sure that there's a tree in there, and you bring it inside because the tree's supposed to have life, and you make sure that it is dressed with different ornaments, or you put different fruit and pines or whatever that are growing on it, and you have all these different things that are hanging, right? And you make sure you paint it silver and gold. This is before you put a star on top and all this stuff, and you said it was about Christ. You did that back then. You know how we know this, by the way? Even from your biblical belief point, even from your biblical point of view, you know how we know this? You ready for this? Because it says in Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1-5, stop messing with it. It says, do not do what the pagans do. Pagans are a people, not just a religion. It says, do not do what the pagans do. Do not be afraid of the seasons. It says, don't go into the woods, and don't chop down a tree, and don't take it into your house, and don't nail it so it stands straight up, and do not paint it silver and gold. It says that in your Bible. But Christianity says we'll mix and match whatever we want. Cristianos is different. People say the Bible is only 6,000 years old because people don't realize what a day is. So when it says that there's 6 days that actually the earth had to be created, and then it talks about Adam having to be around before he sins, people just like kind of knock that out. And a lot of people don't agree with Genesis 1 talking about other people, talking about Adam and Eve specifically. So there's a whole different. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1-5, it says explicitly a long time. And in everyday history, you can look up the fact that this has been around for a long time. Go talk to somebody who's Wiccan. Go talk to somebody who's pagan. Uh-oh, they're not letting me put this picture up anymore. They don't like this picture anymore. That's okay. We're going to get it. Go talk to them. Right? Go talk to people who put up turnips and stuff and things like that. You think it's just pumpkins. You don't even know before that it was turnips. They came from different cultures who celebrated the same thing. Ask them why. Ask them why it's so bad when it comes to Christmas. Why is it so bad that you're supposed to take the tree out of your house? You know why? Because the tree represents life when the sun hits its lowest point. But when the tree begins to die, now death is in your house. So you're supposed to take out the tree, which is why a whole bunch of people are like, yo, why is your tree still up? Right? That's why we have this problem. We don't know where it comes from. See what I'm saying? We try to keep living in the line. We say it doesn't matter, but you're still doing stuff not knowing where it came from. So you say, yo, why is your tree still up? Your tree, they're saying that you don't know why it's passed down, but you say that because you weren't supposed to keep the tree in your house because it meant that it was death, because you were supposed to use real trees. And when they started to wilt, that meant that you were causing death to be in your house. So you need to get that death back out of your house. See, in our culture, death and life is in the power of the tongue. In our culture, you kill things and you bring it inside. You hope that they live long enough. Then when you don't need it anymore, you discard it and you throw it outside. And somebody comes with a garbage truck and they pick it up. You know, they do that with people too. When you need it to be Egyptian, you'll go ahead and drag it in. But when you find out it's Kemetic, you'll go ahead and put it on the side, and you'll treat it like garbage, and you'll let somebody come and collect it. And when we teach truth, it separates us from a system that has you unified in wickedness. If it's not righteous, the word righteousness simply means right lawful standing or right legal standing. I'm not worried about being right. I'm worried about being righteous. So you want to say who's right? Is it fine? I'm talking about righteousness, right lawful standing. This is universal law. This is natural law. This is law of attraction. This is law of first mention. This is substantive law. This is procedural law. This is remedial law. This is public law. This is private law. This is common law. This is admiralty law or law of admiralty. This is law of equity. You just don't know it. Of course, I sound different than what you heard before. Of course, I don't agree with what it is, because sensibility and the culture that you're with, it sounds what's up. You had to say that, Longfellow. I get you though. Right. Pause. I got you. Right. I get what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the law of nature. Things that are lies, they don't get to last forever. Uh-oh. Things that are lies, they don't get to last forever. Fake seed, fake fruit, when it gets to the next generation, it starts going back to its natural setting. That's why Monsanto is always chasing after other people, telling them, "Oh, you can't go ahead and plant natural seed. You got to keep planting our seed because they right, or you can't even use the seed that came from our natural seed. Why? Because if you don't start over, it's not going to last. Right? If you don't start over, it's not going to last. And once again, we're not Republican or Democrat. I could care less about that. See, that shows that somebody wants to remain in a system that enslaves their mind. You can't vote for nature. Did you know that? That's the problem. Is that you think you have a vote. You can't vote for what's natural. You think that you can go outside to the tree and vote and tell the tree, hey, we took a vote and we want you to stop producing apples. We'd like you to produce pears next season. Come on, you can't vote for what's natural. That's why what's natural has to have a king over it. That's why if you were to try, watch this. This is law, legal, right? Lawful, legal. You ready? If you were to try to patent a natural plant that you found in another country, you would not be allowed to. Why? Because that plant is, by law, it was created by a higher power. However, if you modify the plant, then you can patent it. Why can you patent what's modified? You can patent what's modified. Why? Because you can patent the thing that it was not modified. It comes from a natural law. It comes out of universal law. What does universe mean? Uni, a verse, spoken sentence. So a single spoken sentence is what the universe is. So who created the universe is the question. Why do you have laws that literally say that the creator of the universe is the one that gets to say what's natural? And so you could only own what is not natural. That's your law. That's his story. That's the law of Columbus. Right? That's the law of Columbus. That's the law he lived by. And he was able to see, somebody said earlier, and y'all got captured anyways, right? Check this out. You got captured because you got outside of your nature. You were so busy fighting one another that you didn't realize that if you had just treated each other like human beings, you would have been against anybody who would not treat you like a human being. And George Carlin did warn us. And I like a lot of what George has to say. Even though we have some things we disagree on, George Carlin spits a lot of truth and a lot of fire. Right? And it doesn't mean he has to look like me to be able to do so. It's because we're like-minded in the area. You said if I had a real job, you wouldn't complain about paid holiday. Man, I don't have a real job because I do well enough for myself and business on my own and my wife's business on our own to where we don't have to do a 9 to 5. You've got to do that because you got to show up to your master. So stop telling me about your master. I'm my own master. Right? Stop telling me about how you got to make sure that you with your master. Right? I'm a master too. I'm a teacher. And the only master that I have is the master of the universe. When you get to that level and your boss gets to that level, fine. But see, you get to take vacation. I do this every day while I travel. When I'm able to take my family from sea to shining sea, I'm still able to do what I do because this is my work. You got to focus on your job. And this is what we're trying to get people to see. You're living a lie. You're unified over a lie. You're not even in the truth. The truth of the matter is that your boss is hoping that you'll keep doing all this stuff over and over and over again and missing time with your family and not being able to school them, your children, and taking your child and telling them, hey, throw your child to the system. Put them in preschool, 2 years old, 3 years old. Have them babies learn from us so they don't even know who they are. That's what your job is, a part of that system. Why would you want to keep being part of that system? Your job has you doing it. Your job says you have to dress like this when you're on the job. My work says be yourself. That's the lie that unifies you, that keeps you where you are. The truth separates you from that. Right? And my work doesn't just stop when the camera goes off. My work is when I'm going to go see you in person. No matter where you are in the country, my work is when we're going to make sure that we put food on them and fill them babies' tummies up. Right? My work is my wife's work that I'm part of is when we're going to make sure that we go to different places, making sure that people can have clothes in the wintertime when they're going to be homeless. See, that's the work. So your job is like, when you can do that, go ahead and do that. But you're going to give us time first. My work says we're going to be dedicated to that. And people so into the work, they so into the vision because they've seen it and they see that it separates us from a different place. Right? That's the work. That's the work. Yeah, even that's a great point. I never looked at that career field, right? In the field. right? That's a job. People in prison have jobs. They just don't get paid like you get paid. People in prisons have jobs. That don't impress me. That because they can still put you in the hole. Your job can fire you tomorrow. Your job can fire you and say, oh, well, we didn't really follow you. We just let you go because we don't have enough money to pay you. Meanwhile, though, that same job will make sure that the people who are making 10 million, 15 million, the people that are on the board, the CEO and others, they'll make sure that they get a raise because they now fired you. But they'll say, we can't do what we're doing and make sure that we keep people on staff. They won't hire, they won't raise the minimum wage. Keep working you like a slave, though, don't they? Or an indentured servant, which ain't too far from it. How you doing, Minister Tamara, if I didn't say so already? Right? All I'm saying is like, see, somebody comes on here, see, if you had a job, you're a slave. That sounds like a slave. I'm sorry to say it to you like that. It might be harsh the way I'm saying it. Sometimes you got to tell somebody the truth. Like that sounds like slave talk to me. I used to be one. I used to be somebody, yeah, man, I work 2 jobs and then I do the church stuff and all that stuff or whatever. Like, yeah, I work 2 jobs and then I preach. I work 2 jobs and then I'm an activist. I work 2 jobs and then why can't I just be an activist full time? What's stopping you? Who's your master? Who's your master? Dancing. Yes, sir, boss. See, I dance. I tell these folk. You see, I tell these folk, boss, that they don't know what they talking about. They don't love you, sir. They don't work hard enough for you, sir. I'm sorry to say it like that, but that's what it sounds like. I used to do that. I work 2 jobs and I do this and I make sure I blah blah and I try to take care of my kids and then he says, great job dancing. Okay, you can have your little service on the side. Just make sure that you preach what I preach. That's why they had overseers that would be in churches. That's why a lot of these churches still have the position called overseer, that you'd have a slave and they would preach, and then the overseer would come behind them like they do at church services when you have a guest preacher, and they come behind them and they say, okay, this is what they really should have said. And this is this. So the pastor really ain't got no position anyways. Just like your president ain't got no position because your president works for the corporation. You know, your president and your senators and your judges and stuff, they can't even make laws without making sure first they bow down to the corporations. Right? The president's up there soft shoeing, shucking and jiving, right? And you so busy looking at the stuff, you like, oh, look at this. Oh, he hit you with that move. And you missing the whole thing. They dancing up there. They dancing around the subject. They're dancing around your freedom. They dancing around the peace. They dancing around your dead loved ones. They dancing around the indigenous. They dancing around Columbus. They dancing around your Republican Party. They dancing around your Democratic Party. I know this for a fact, y'all. I've seen this where the same people that will argue Republican versus Democrat upstairs, then they go downstairs and they have lunch. And when you go down there and you'll see them, and guess what they do? Man, that was pretty decent. I didn't expect you to do that. That's funny. We're gonna get you tomorrow, and then they go home. And then you keep up the fight because you think that while they go home and they just finish breaking bread with each other and shaking hands and being like, man, that was pretty good. That was pretty decent. I give you credit for that one. Then they go home and you're busy fighting against each other. They finish their dance, but then they clock out of the dance. You keep dancing. You think that somebody like, why are you still dancing 5 hours after? They don't understand my point of position. They don't understand that the Democrats did. They don't understand the Republicans. You're killing yourself. Stop dancing enough and look at what's going on. It's a very Machiavellian system, right? Yeah, at the end of the game, you know, oh man, the Commanders got to play against the Cowboys. The Chiefs got to play against the Raiders. The Chargers got to play against the Raiders. I don't know all these different teams. What is it? The Browns got to play against the Ravens. The Ravens have to play against the Steelers. And you get all these different things or whatever, right? Those players go home and they say, okay, we got another game. And they say, good game. Great job, man. You got us. Yo, they even trade jerseys and sign them and sit there and smiling. But they don't show you that much of that at the end of the game. They try to keep that away. Why? Because you're supposed to still hate a color on a jersey, just like they're trying to teach you to still hate the color on a skin. Same thing. Same Colosseum vibe, same romantic attitude, same Greco-Roman value. Even the word church, it literally comes from the same root word of circe, which is circus. Even churches hate each other. There are songs that start up. I can't remember the name of the song. Gosh, I always forget it when I need it. My bad. If it comes to me, but this song going into worship, supposedly going into worship, and the guy starts off by saying, "I'm so glad that I'm not Baptist anymore and that I'm Kojic, so I can praise and worship the Most High correctly." Putting on a jersey. We don't like them. They don't like us. But you say you worship the same Yah or God. You putting on that jersey. You're unified in a lie. Your hate is tied to a lie. The truth separates you from that hate. Right? Watch this. 1 + 1 = 2, which really means 1/1 or +1/1 = 2/1. But if I change the foundation or if I change the denominator or the denomination, then it really is not going to work, because it's going to be 1/2 + 1/4 = 2/1. It doesn't make sense. But you just see the top, you see the icing, you see the numerator, and not realizing that the denominator should be the same belief system. It should be the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. But you don't care about that. You're about your numerator. I'm Baptist. I'm Kojic. I'm Presbyterian. I'm AME. I'm Methodist. I'm Southern Baptist. I'm Free Will Baptist. I'm First Baptist. I'm Second Baptist. I'm Third Baptist. I'm non-denominational. Well, you can't do 1/0 + 1/0 = 2/1. You can't have zero denominator and make the thing come together. You hear what I'm saying? Like, whatever belief system you're doing, whatever you're dealing in, they're using the same formula to divide you, right? They're dividing you, and you have a belief that you're at war, but you're unified in war. You're fighting about the same thing. The same person who's over the right is the same person over the left. I know some of y'all don't want to hear about this, but you ready for this? Watch this. The same person who funds the KKK is the same person who funds Black Muslims. May I say that again? I just want to make this clear. The same person who funds the KKK is the same person who funds Black Muslims. Okay? I'm not saying, see what I'm saying? You got to come out of this. It's not as simple as black and white. It's greater than that. Yes, it is greater than color. Color is something that I acknowledge and I love, but I'm not going to sit up here and act like it's all color, because not all skin folk is kinfolk. Just because somebody looks like me and wears an African pendant or has guigname earrings, or make sure that they even know what guigname means, or because they can say Anai and they say their name after it, or they say shalom or shalom, or they can say namaste, or they can say ni hao, or they can say osayu or ohayu, or they can say bimini kofi, or they can say bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi, or they can say hola, mi nombre es Kofi. Whatever it is, like, just because they can speak and act and talk like me doesn't mean that they have my best interest at heart. It doesn't mean that, right? It's bigger than that. The reason why that even matters as much is because of the social construct. What society, what socials you go to, whose society is teaching you to be in lies rather than separate from the lie. Truth separates. Lies, you got to come together. Once again, lies have to make sense. Truth is what it is. There are some, you ever had somebody tell you a story, and at the end of the story, you say, man, that can't even be a lie, because nobody could even make something like that up. You're right. Like, you have an intrinsic thing that says, yo, like, that thing right there is so true that like it has to be true, because I don't even think anybody could come up with something like that where everything matches. Right? Like, I can't mess up. Like truth is what it is. Right? But lies, they got to make sense, don't they? Somebody taught me that when I was in the shelter. I've never forgotten that. That brother who taught me, right? Brother Stan, much love to you wherever you are. When he taught me that, I said, wow. How you doing, Sister Mary? I said, wow. Like, the truth is the truth. The lie has to make sense. Somebody got to make the lie keep making sense. They got to keep coming up with more and more and more. When somebody can't prove the lie, they just come up with something else on top. They got to keep going back to it, right? Like you have different theories. And these theories don't necessarily even come from righteous places, but you have to keep dealing with whatever you can, right, to keep on coming in. You don't believe me, right? Watch this. I'm not saying that all people believe in the same type of evolution. As a matter of fact, there are 6 types of evolution. So I'm not here to even try to destroy, and I don't believe in evolution personally, but I'm not even here to do that, right? There's even one of the 6 types of evolution has to do with basically male and the female of the species come together and they have a child, or they have a cub, or they have whatever that looks exactly, it looks mostly like both of them, but has slight variation. Right. So I'm not even here to argue that if you want to call it evolution, I wouldn't necessarily call it evolution, but it is what it is. Right. So, but there's 6 types, but I'm talking about one type of evolution. You ready for this? You can't talk about evolution without talking about a specific culture. You can't. You can't. Okay. Who is Carl Linnaeus? Forget Christopher Columbus for a second. Who is Carl Linnaeus? Who is Carl Linnaeus? Who is that? See, once again, you're unified over a lie. Who is Carl Linnaeus? Carl Linnaeus is one of the first people to start saying that different colored people come from different animals. Right. He put us in classes. He put us in races. Carl Linnaeus, that's what he did. He put us in classes. He put us in races. He said that white people come from are in this class of people. He said that Native Americans or those indigenous to the Americas, they come in this form. He said that Asiatic people, they come in this form of people and they do this, and black people, they're on the bottom. He said like white people are, without error and they take things seriously and blah, blah. He said Native people, they're into, spooky type stuff and things like that. He said Chinese people, they don't really have it all together, but they do. They are very focused people. He said black people, they're lazy and this and that or whatever because black people were their slaves. Carl Linnaeus. Okay. Who comes out of the school of Carl Linnaeus to give you what you talk about as far as evolution? Charles Darwin. I'm not saying if you want to believe in evolution, that's your thing. I'm saying know where it comes from. Charles Darwin, the book that made him infamous, not the book that made him famous, the book that made him infamous. That same book was used by Hitler and Stalin and many other people who did a lot of stuff that y'all want to talk about. Idi Amin used it. Papa Doc used it as well. Okay, that gave you 2 white folk and 2 black folk if you need that. Okay, Charles Darwin is from the school of Linnaeus, right? He learned and he said he was Linnaean. It says it on his book. What is the title of Charles Darwin's book that made him so infamous? What is the title of his book? You said Darwin also said there was no such thing as evolution. Well, okay, not according to his book, but it is what it is, right? Charles Darwin might not have called it, but let's be honest, what people are calling evolution and Darwinism, they're getting it from that book. Let's just leave it at that, right? Because we could argue about that part, and that's cool. We don't have, like I said, we'll keep the main thing. We can agree to disagree. But what's the title of his book? The full title, right, is The Theory of Evolution. I'm sorry, actually, excuse me. It's The Origin of Species, no. I had it right. It's The Theory of Evolution, Origin of Species, by means of natural selection, or the preservation of favored races and the struggle for life. That is the entire name of his book. That's what he's authorizing anybody who reads his book to be able to learn about. What is it called? The Theory of Evolution, the Origin of Species, by natural selection, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. That means that he wrote a book. And by the way, in parentheses, right underneath that, it says it is backed up by royalty, it's backed up by people who are supposed to be into geography, and it's backed up by people who believe in what Carl Linnaeus taught. Carl Linnaeus taught white people here, Native people here, Asian people here, black people here. That's what it is. That's what he wrote. Okay. So Charles Darwin took it to the next level and said that when it comes to the theory of evolution, the origin of species where all of us originate as different species. He said different colors mean different species. He didn't believe that human beings were all one species. He believed that human beings came from different animals. And he said that, and he did what Carl Linnaeus did, but expanded it, where white people were still on top, black people were in the bottom, and now different shades are in between, right? And he said, once again, in his book, it is about natural selection, or if we want to call it another thing, so that'd be that semicolon, or semicolon, what? It is the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. That means that certain races should be preserved and other people should not. I did not make that up. That is something you can read, and you can read the book for yourself and start reading. You will find that even when he starts talking about other races, when he talks about white, he'll talk about like the white race. But when he talks about somebody else's race, social construct, he calls it a species. So he's telling you throughout the whole book, that is his mentality. And if you don't like that, well, you got Carl Linnaeus, you got Charles Darwin, then guess what? His cousin, Charles Darwin's cousin, right? Charles Darwin actually married that person's sister. So Charles Darwin married his own cousin, right? But nevertheless, Charles Darwin's cousin wrote the book on eugenics. Hey, what's up, Big Spoon? Right? So his cousin writes the book on eugenics. The book on eugenics is something that's used later on in France to commit to make an IQ test, not based off of race, but based off of people who were in Paris versus all these country bumpkins that they didn't like, to say that the intel or the information that these people in Paris had are better than the intel of the other French. Somebody in America heard about it on the East Coast, traveled all the way over to France, picked that document up, took it all the way back, changed it up so that it could be about now this struggle for the preservation of favored races, the struggle for life, and then told all the states to be able to start giving this out. Right? That's how that happened. But people say, don't worry about it. It happened in the past. Why you keep bringing up the past? Because you're still living in the past. Do you not take IQ tests today? Anybody in here not ever seen or taken or heard of an IQ test? That's where that comes from. It means information, right? Even if you want to go to the negative side, because people do this with us all the time. So let's even endure a little bit of this, right? Let's do a little think tank, if you will. Even if you want to go to the negative side, do you think that the person who's out there who has to be able to get product, has to be able to cut it up, has to be able to make sure that chemically it's sound, has to know the taste of the product that they're selling on the street, that same product that Ronald Reagan put all over the place? Do you think that person who then sells it, makes money, has people that are under him, has to make sure that the police don't find out this and that, you think they don't have intelligence? You think they have less intelligence than the person who works at McDonald's? By the way, just because you work at McDonald's doesn't mean you're intelligent, just means you work at McDonald's. Right? But you think that person is less intelligent? Right? That person builds an empire. Right? Carl Linnaeus, Linaeus, something like that. I might have spelled it wrong. Right? But that person's not less intelligent. You think that the mother who works at home is less intelligent than the woman who's a single, who's single and doesn't have any children, but she's a CEO? You think that the CEO can handle what the mother does? So you see a mother in a house with 5 children, one in her arm, the other one in a rack, making sure that it's getting breast milk, making food, talking on the phone, making sure that everything runs or whatever. And the husband comes back home, he just says, "Hey, baby," and she says, "Hey, how you doing?" Who you think had a harder day? Right? Who do you think had a harder day? Right? Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Ashley, or Ashley, whatever it is. I appreciate you, even when you depreciate. I appreciate, right? Who do you think had a harder day? Of course, right? But you think you think that's intelligence? Notorious, if you want to hang in there and listen long enough, you can find out, or you can find out. We have this recorded. We started at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time, so you're just coming into a 2-hour conversation. Thank you for coming on, though. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. I was like, not barely. I was like, that was wild. I'm sorry about that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Right. So you hear what I'm saying? Like you have to realize and recognize that a lot of this stuff, they are lies. You think that an IQ test actually means something when the IQ test just means this is what specific people who are in a certain realm want everybody else to be able to bow down to. You think that school is going to help you to find out who you are? You think that's what school is for? I mean, really, you think that that's what school is for? You think school is to make you your higher self? Maybe we go back to another picture that we talked about a few days ago. Let's go back to another, or not another topic rather. Let's go back to another topic. Right? Let's go back to another topic. Right? We talked about loving lawfully, but let's go back even a little bit further than that. I hope I still have it up here. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Right? Let's look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of need. You think school taught you to be yourself? Did school ever esteem you? Did school ever love you, develop, have you a sense of belonging? Did school make people feel safe? School gave you physiological. They gave you the physical. PE test. Can you pass this test? Can you do this? Can you do whatever? Are you ready to be able to work to job out for somebody else? That's what school was there for. You never even learned yourself. You said your school did most of those? Okay, cool. Well, I can speak for a lot of people who would say that their school didn't do that. I didn't learn. Look, I'm Cherokee. You can say that's American history. They didn't teach me about that. They didn't teach me that George Washington killed us off. They didn't teach us that Thomas Jefferson made up the school system and literally said he made the school system so that it'd be different classes. He told you. He said, when we put the school system together, there's going to be people who can't even afford to go to school. They're just going to have to take care of home. He said, then we're going to have elementary level, so they'll get paid a tiny bit more, but really they're going to be on the same level. He said, then there's going to be people that go to secondary school. You call it high school now and junior high. He said they'll have a secondary type education and they'll get paid a little bit more, but they just won't really be anything but just, assistant manager type people. He said, then we'll have bachelors. What's a bachelor? A bachelor is a male, not a bachelorette even. A bachelor is a male who is of a certain age. And when they went to school for their bachelors, their parents just paid for them to get a degree. They just played around all day. Then he said those who want to get masters, they will be the teachers. So they're going to study harder and they're going to be able to teach others. And then he said that you'll have people who are doctors. They get to be able to write out and doctor what it is that's going to be part of the system. So if you were able to find yourself in it, then that's great. A lot of us didn't. That's why there's a difference between his story and the story. You said lie. School sets you up to work for somebody else. Yeah, exactly. Like if you need, like, by the way, I think there's certain things you should get a degree in. If you're going to, or at least get proper knowledge in it. But they used to have stuff, before we had a school system like that, you used to just be an apprentice. If you're going to build something, then be an apprentice. The apprentice was supposed to teach you that. Your father was supposed to teach you things. Joshua was a carpenter. Joseph was a carpenter. Whatever daddy does, he's supposed to teach you. Whatever mama does, she's supposed to teach you. Husbands and wives were supposed to be learned at home. So your mom and dad were supposed to sit you down and say, this is what husbands do, this is what wives do. That's what it was supposed to be. So if you got everything, if you learned your higher self and you have school to thank, you have your college experience to thank for you finding out who you are, you know what? Praise God that you were able to do that in that environment. A lot of people didn't learn like that. Oh, Rockefeller and JP Morgan. I mean, if we want to, I mean, heck, if we really want to go there, think about the fact that the NAACP, who's supposed to be helping colored people, the NAACP, who's supposed to be schooling colored people, stuff like that, and protecting colored people, right? NAACP just finally, last year or earlier this year, for the first time, had a black president over all chapters. And guess who? Guess what? Rockefellers have been in charge of the NAACP before. Tell me where they do that at. Rich white men in charge of the NAACP. But you think that they care about what you learn in your school. Did George Washington care about women's rights? Did Thomas Jefferson care about women's rights? Did Andrew Jackson care about women's rights? Did Abraham Lincoln fight for women's rights? Did Hillary Clinton fight for women's rights? Uh-oh. A little tough right there. What about Kamala? Did she fight for women's rights? I don't know for sure about Shirley Chisholm. She just came up in my spirit. I'm not sure. Somebody can research that. I don't remember her being, but obviously, first woman run for president. So I mean, I guess we could say that in and of itself, right? But I'm just saying, like, we had this weird philosophy that we're living in truth and we're living in lies. We're living in lies, right? That's why we use social media the way that we do. We need to make sure that we have something out there that it represents some kind of truth. A child just wants somebody to put bright colors up there, so you can teach them lies all day. Just make sure it's bright enough, it's loud enough, there's enough shooting, and they'll just do whatever you say. You said they set her up to fail. I mean, Kamala's part of the system. Look, may I say this about Kamala, Obama, Eisenhower, Lincoln? I mentioned them, by the way, because they part black. A lot of y'all don't know that all those people are part black. Kamala actually didn't even want to be known as black. She was Indian. Right, her people come from Jamaica, but you got to realize there's a lot of India, Jamaica whites separation over there, and so she wanted nothing to do with it until she was trying to run for president, or she was getting ready to a few years prior. Then all of a sudden, she had videos talking about Wakanda forever. Right, there's videos out, you can see her doing it. It's cringe because she was locking up black women because the black women were saying that their children were in other addresses so they can go to better school. She was locking them up for that. Right. But then it was Wakanda forever. So if you know the story of Kamala, it's some serious stuff. But you need to recognize, like, the job of the president is not even what you think. What is the president's number one job? What is the president's number one job, y'all? Somebody help me out. What is the president of the United States of America's number one duty? Because she's next in line, right? So what will become her number one duty if it's not so already? What is the president of the United States of America's number one job? You said keep us in check. Well, yeah, but watch this. The president of the United States' number one job is to preserve the union. That's their number one duty, is to preserve what? The union. Number one. Number one job, number one duty is to preserve the union. So if Kamala becomes the president tomorrow, she is not here to make sure that she make sure that the rights of the wrongs are righted. She's here to make sure that she preserves the union. Now, what is the union? The union is based off of a lie. Lies cause unity, but truth separates. Right? If you look up Kamala Harris, any of them, right? Their job is to preserve the union. They are not here to protect you. Even if Joe Biden wants to protect you, which I don't believe, but even if he wanted to, his job is not to worry about you first. It is to preserve the union. Joe Biden, if he has to choose between the union and his wife, if he's a good president, this is very Machiavellian, but it's true. If he's a good president, then he has to do what? He literally has to put the union over his wife. If he has to put the union, if he's a good president, he has to put the union over his son. If he's a good president, he has to put the union over you. Why do you think that you're different than his own family? He preserves the union for those he works for. Who does the president of the United States work for? Does he work for the people? Here we go. Here's the lie. All right, Ayana, thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Right? Who do you think that he works for? You think he works for the people. That's the lie. You're unified under the lie. He don't work for you. Once again, what is the definition of capitalism? Capitalism is defined as capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. Trade and industry is wielded by private corporations rather than the state. The state means the government. Therefore, the government works for the private corporation. The private corporation controls your trade and your industries. And the trade and industry is there for politics and economics. What are economics? Ecosystem, money, nature, your homes, if you're not careful, right? What are politics? What is a poll? Somebody says we're going to take a poll. What is a poll? Politics. See, if we would pronounce these words a little different, we might get some of this stuff. What is a poll for? Is a poll for you to vote on? So I could take a poll right now. I could say, how many people believe that you should be free? Maybe it's 95% and 5% because there's always going to be people that are going to be against it, right? But if I said, like, how many people y'all want to be free? And we take a poll, let's say it's 95% and 5%. Does that mean that just because we took a poll that you can be free tomorrow or free today? It just means that we're taking your opinion and we'll see that it's opinionated. And when we run for president, we run for other things, we'll say, hey, guys, I want to let you know that I heard your opinion and I'm going to try hard to change it so that your opinion can be represented. And then once I get into office, oh yeah, your opinion, I can't do anything about it because I don't work for you, right? Because your opinion doesn't matter as much as my boss's opinion. That's why you got to be free. My boss's opinion, even if I don't like it, if I have a boss, his opinion matters more than mine. There you go. Politics, police, policy, a poll. That's the same root word. You hear what I'm saying? Amen. How you doing, Vonda? Thanks for being on, right? So all this stuff. So watch this. Wasn't the big buzz going to be how you were going to get reparations for people? Wasn't that the Democratic urge? Vote for us for reparations. 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 And then they got Biden on recording now, talking to senators, telling them that, oh yeah, that reparations thing, it ain't gonna happen. Within his first few months of being in, he took a poll. He knew what you wanted to talk about. He had a black female president or vice president, right? Because that wasn't even his original black female president. Y'all remember that? Right? It was supposed to be a white female vice president, and she actually was the person that allowed Derek Chauvin, the one that put his knee on George Floyd. She was the one that let Chauvin keep getting out. He had like 13 other things that had been brought before her when she was the district attorney or whatever her position was, and so she kept letting them off. So when people found out she kept letting them off, they came to her. They were like, "Yo, you ain't gonna be able to run for vice president anymore." Right? So they said, like, you ain't gonna be able to run for vice president anymore. So what did they do? They said, so she comes out with this public statement to y'all and says, hey, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't run. Y'all didn't want her to run anymore anyways, right? Because y'all found out about it. So she comes out with this statement, maybe we shouldn't run. You know what? I think because they're still grooming her, they're gonna push her at some point to do something down the road. So since they're still grooming her, they're like, take a step back and we're gonna go ahead and put somebody else there for now. So she comes out with this public statement that they arranged saying, hey, you know what? I really think that right now is the time that we should have somebody else run. Maybe we should have a black female vice president run with Joe Biden. Then all of a sudden, give him a couple weeks, and the same Kamala Harris that people didn't want anymore to run, now she's the vice president. Now everybody said, cool, yeah, we're going to have this Howard in the house. Yeah, she Delta, she Greek, she blah, blah. She's just like one of us. And y'all forgot that when she was running, the reason why she got caught up was because there was a Hispanic woman, y'all remember, who was running as well. And the Hispanic woman called her out and said, because remember, Kamala Harris told y'all that Joe Biden was racist. Now she's Joe Biden's best friend. But remember, Kamala had told y'all while she was running that Joe Biden was racist. So the Spanish sister came up and said, hold up, if you're going to call out Joe Biden for being racist, then what about all them black women that you locked up because they were trying to get their children better educations? And what was Kamala's response? She did the white tears thing, and y'all didn't have no time for it. Y'all forgot that fast, right? But she did the white tears thing, where it was like, oh, well, you don't know what I had to do, and how dare you? You'll never be in a position to tell me what I had to do. Everything I did was to make sure that California had what it was supposed to. But then all of a sudden, when they took out that white vice president, they said, what do we need? Black female vice president, put her in. Everybody forgot. You went right back into the lie because the default is for the lie, not the truth. All they had to do was say, lay low, Kamala. I know we had you up there. You lay low. You messed up. Okay, now you got to lay low. I think it's been enough time, Kamala. We'll put you right back in. Right? We put you right back in where we had you. We'll put you right back in where we had you. And everybody now, and then when she ran, what was she saying? We did it, Joe. We did it, Joe. Y'all remember that? And I was sitting there looking like, because I didn't watch it when it happened live. I found out like a few months, and I watched the clip. I was like, that's that's the same person that just finished saying he was racist. That's the same person that years before that, she wasn't even black. She was Indian. That's the same woman. I'm not trying to say this because I disagree with, interracial marriages or whatever. I'm not saying that because of that at all. I don't agree with that, right? However, that's the same woman that married a white guy, would not call herself black, called herself Indian, and she got black servants that work for her in her house and make sure that there's all white people that show up to the house. That's the context, not just the facts without context, not just the context without facts. Those are contextual facts. But that's who everybody, you got black people out here hoping and praying. And the Democrats are hoping and praying that Joe Biden fails so bad or gets in trouble, or some of them even be hoping he dies so that Kamala will be up there and she's going to preserve the union. That is her job. That's what she does. She goes in front of judges and preserves the union. She locks people up. And what I'm trying to give you is that Columbus is just a cautionary tale that if you keep feeding into the lie, you'll be unified by the lie. But if you really want to come out, be ready, because when you come into the truth of the matter, truth separates, and people don't like people that are separate. So what was the point of putting Obama there? Because he preserved the union. President Obama, remember when he was running? And everybody clapped when he said this, but I realized what he said when he said it, because I had started coming out. I'll be honest, I voted for the first time just because he was black. I'll be honest with you. Didn't really care anymore, but I was like, hey, black man running, whatever, right? That was all I voted for. I'm just being honest with you. Everybody else, it was crisscross applesauce and whatever else I voted for. I don't care. At the end of the day, I was just like, okay, Obama, you go ahead and get a vote, right? But reality was, right? The reality is this. If we just be honest about it, Obama said before he was running, I already was leery of it, because Obama said this. Somebody asked him a question. They said, well, what are you going to do for Black America? Well, are you excited to do anything for Black America? And this was his response. He said, I am not the Black president of the United States of America. I'm not running, or he said, I'm not running for it. He said, I'm not running for the white president of the United States of America. He said, I'm running to become the president of the United States of America. And everybody, but he told you straight up, what he said is, I'm not here to do what y'all want me to do. I'm here to preserve the union. That's what he said. He said, I'm here to preserve the union. That's all he did, right? That's what he came for. And what did he do? Did he do anything for black folk? No. Did he do anything for white folk? Really? No. Did he do stuff? Like, watch this. See, this is the thing. Like, we don't pay attention. Obama had his wife, Michelle, dancing on Ellen and talking about children need to eat better. Everybody's like, yeah, that's so great. Look at Obama's wife, right? Meanwhile, Obama was signing documentation to say that Monsanto and other corporations could stop putting certain things in labeling on labels of food, right? People go talk about Obama and all this stuff, but remember, people were asking him, what are you going to do about the border? He said, I'll take care of that, but it's not going to be my first step or whatever, but I'll take care of it towards the end of my presidency. He didn't take care of it part of the first one, and he didn't do anything in the second one until towards the end that he started saying, we need to start treating those people on the border better or whatever. But Obama, you had more people in them cages than Trump ever did. Right? He made sure LGBTQ plus was represented, but he didn't do anything for black people who were doing certain things or whatever. Then people say, see, and then this is how wild people are with racism and stuff that's been taught to us. Then people go, well, he did stuff as far as food and food stamps and stuff like that. It's like, do you not know that black people are a minority when it comes to being on food stamps? Do you not know that? Like, he was helping more people in trailer parks than he was in the hood. And I know that's very, very, topical way of looking at it. I get that. But I'm just saying, he wasn't there for you. Right? Do you not know that? Do you not know that? Remember, everybody clapped. Oh, Obama's going to make sure that prisons no longer belong to the government. That's so great. The government doesn't need to make money off of prisons. He just signed to make sure that prisons became private. That means it became part of a corporation, right? And these corporations are the reason why you have people having to hit a quota, and why they try and lock you up and do this stuff, because states sign contracts, because the government, by capitalism, once again, private corporations run the state, they run the country, they run the government. Therefore, the private corporations sign up with people in states to where they have to be 95, 96, 97, 98, 99% full. So if they got to be 99% full, 95% full, then that means that you got to keep putting people in there, because if you don't get it there, there's a penalty that the state has to pay. So either way, you're gonna pay with human life, right? Which is what that straw man, that birth certificate is, or you're gonna pay us some money. But either way, you're gonna pay us, because we're the private corporation and we run off of the fuel of human service, of human sacrifice. We will kill you up in here. Excuse me. We will not feed you. Where is it recently? Was it Alabama or somewhere down there, Mississippi, somewhere down there, where they got caught and the people weren't eating, to the point to where one of the guys had to have his intestines removed, right? A whole bunch of them, because his body began to shut down and he was thin. This is a white guy that they showed in the picture, by the way, right? Looking like one of the people that they only say are skinny Ethiopians and stuff. This was a white guy who looked like that, and couldn't even, it was Alabama, okay, and it couldn't even function. And then when people found out about it, and then they found out that the prisoners had gone on strike, so you know what they did? They said, we will make sure the prisoners eat less food. They were giving them jacked up versions of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with just the crust, with just the butt in the face, if you will, if you know that term for the bread, with just the ends, and that was it. That was their one meal for the day, and they had to survive off of that with some jacked up. You know how, like, when the peanut butter isn't mixed together correct, and you don't turn it upside down and stuff, and it gets all that oil and everything. They were basically giving them the peanut butter oil and giving them little scrapes of jelly as a punishment for them coming against it. And then when the public found out about it, the public had an outcry, and they said, "Oh, no, 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 we're not doing that because of that. We're doing it because we don't have enough people to be able to, we can't afford to pay enough people." But you can't afford to pay enough people if you don't have enough people locked up. It's the same system. That's what that system is there for. You were raised on the lie where you thought that prison was great for reform, but they don't reform prisoners. If you get a chance to reform, they've taken libraries out of most prisons. There's very few prisons now to where somebody can go to a library and learn. There's very few prisons where somebody can go to a service to be able to get away from being in prison for a second, right? But they make you a slave, and if you don't work as a slave, you get thrown in the hole. You get punished. See, we're living in a lie, and people love to unify over lies, but they don't like to be separated by the truth. So now put somebody and treat them like an animal, and have it to where their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right, is required to be able to come from the state, and that everything that they do is structured and ordered by somebody telling you what to do. You put that person out. You say, now when I take you out of prison, I'm going to make you free. That person is not free in their mind. Now they get out, they say, nobody doing anything. Nobody will give me a job. Nobody give me an opportunity. Nobody give me food. Nobody give me shelter. Well, at least in prison, I get it. And so a lot of them will become second-time offenders on purpose, just because they want to go back so that they can be in the same thing and have an imprisoned mind and live the same way over and over and over again. And that's how a lot of people are living, to where you want to keep going back to the same system that enslaves you and messes you up and frustrates you and kills you and does all this stuff and gives you a little fake watch at the end of your 50, 60, 70 years of service. And you say, man, you know what? I'm so glad that somebody was there to feed me and tell me what to do. That's the difference between a public and a private citizen. Why not become a private citizen and separate yourself in truth? Why keep remaining in the public that doesn't even think that you were worth anything? You say, I'm a whiner? No, I'm somebody that's free. I'm somebody who did what they did in the system. I'm somebody that served their country. I'm somebody who has his own business. I'm somebody who works for his community. I'm somebody that teaches people all over the world. I'm somebody that makes sure people get clothes and stuff. And because I do it so well, I don't have to have a 9 to 5 like you. So therefore, I'm not whining about something. I'm somebody who lives in the upper echelon. Even if they don't make that much money, my life is one where I can go from land to land, working on land for my whole community and those who are like-minded, those that want to live off of something that's natural. But I can go from natural to natural. I can go from grace to grace. I can go from glory to glory. I can go from land to land, and I can be able to live the way that we are supposed to be living. So just because you got to check in with your master doesn't mean I have to check in with mine. My master that I check in with is the one who made heaven and earth. I don't mind checking in with him because I never stop checking in with him. I'm with him all day, right? You got to check in and out with your master and then hope that he allows you to worship whoever you want to worship. We got different masters, right? But my master gives me freedom. Your master says, see, a whiner, a complainer, you're just not American enough. You don't have a job. That's your master. If you want to learn how to come from under your master, then let's do it. If you want to make sure that people are doing things that are greater, let's do it. If you want to have some people support your business, shoot, we'll put your stuff up on the website. We want people to support each other's business. Let's go. Let's get it. There's not one person in here that we can't support. Let's come out of this. Let's come out of this. I'm sorry, Red Mama Bear. Somebody said, great question. Looks like your question maybe was something that was offensive, though, because it looks like the moderators got to you. I don't know. Since you thought it was a great question, no offense to you. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't you that said the question. Sorry, it was Wesher Get. I'm sorry. I got that messed up. Is there a Wesher Get on here? Looks like they're not on here either. But Red Mama Bear, what was the question that was so great, if you don't mind? Oh, did they get to you already there? Oh, no, they didn't. But Red Mama Bear, what was the question? No shade, no hate is not your question. What was the question, if you don't mind? Or could somebody else, if you saw the question? If you could just put it on there. You said you raise your children and get paid to go to school, and then you build your own business. Ain't nothing wrong with that. By the way, a lot of people do that. I know you didn't ask the question. I see you said it was a great question or a good question. I was asking, can you repeat it? It's not on you. It's on whoever said, right? Should Obama deported more people than all other presidents combined? I agree. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm free from that. Oh, thank you, Don. Appreciate that. You said Columbus discovered America under the doctrine of discovery. He did. So if you're into the Roman Catholic doctrine of discovery, started in 1453, made official in 1490. No, sorry, started in 1452, made official in 1493. Then by all means, he did. It depends on your cultural perspective. But you probably don't even know what the doctrine of discovery is to figure out why he's allowed to say that he discovered America. So, you know. You said Obama arrested more journalists? Possibly. Wouldn't surprise me. Obama killed more people through drones and stuff like that and killed men, women, and children that were innocent? Sure. Once again, I'm not concerned about not telling the truth. I'm not concerned about because he's black that he's better, or that he's Democrat and he's better. Like Malcolm X said, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, and right, and I'm not even American. Got sense enough to know it. That's a quote. How you doing, Shabbos? You know, but this is the reason we're dealing with this stuff, right? But yeah, like Obama, once again, he's there to preserve the union. He's no different than Eisenhower. He's no different than Coolidge. He's no different than either one of the Roosevelts. He's no different than Washington. He's no different than Adams. He's no different than the other Adams. He's no different than Jefferson. He's no different than Jackson. He's no different than Grant. He's no different than, the list goes on and on. Heck, I mean, technically, if you want to get technical, he ain't no different than General Lee or General Stonewall Jackson. They're working for the same thing. If they're working for the same thing and working towards the same thing, who cares? You said, well, I admit Trump was better for the African American community than Obama. I'll admit that both of them don't care about the African American community, nor do they care about the Eurocentric community, nor do they care about the Chinese community. None of them do. It was the same Trump that said on Oprah not too long ago, right? I know this is a long time for some, but you know, those who are old enough to remember or just research some, he didn't say not too long ago that he would run Democrat because he thought Republicans were stupid and this and that, whatever, and that they would just fall for whatever. They don't care about you. That's the point. I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, or whatever. I don't expect a president to take care of me. No president has ever gone to my door and went and said, hey, what does your family need? Not one of them. So until that day happens, when that day happens, we can have a different conversation. I promise you it won't. So I don't care. I don't care if you're Green Party. I don't care if you're Libertarian. I don't care if you're Communist. I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're a follower of the way. I don't care. Like, in this sense, the main thing is the main thing. When they start helping us, then we can go ahead and start having a mindset. I don't care. All of the presidents manipulate. All of the presidents hate. All of the presidents allow for prisons. All of the presidents are sitting up there having you with no, with no gold standard. right? All of the presidents are out here working for the Federal Reserve. All of the presidents have to be able to listen to what these private corporations say. You said I'm wrong. The Republican statement is false and been proven so. Trump cared. Okay. All right. I'm wrong about Trump. Everything that Trump did was to make sure that black people were taken care of. That's what you're saying, right? Everything that Trump ever said or did was to make sure that he was a better president for the black community, right? That's why he had a meeting with black pastors and literally had black pastors up there telling them to speak against a black man, right? Because everything that he did was to help the black community. By the way, did Trump care about poor white people? No. Trump had poor white people march with tiki torches and didn't care that they were going to get arrested. Trump had poor white people and rich white people, by the way, show up to the White House and had them march down to kill a white vice president. Trump doesn't care even about his boy, Mike Pence. He said, kill that man if it means that I'll be in here longer, if it means that I mean be a king. Who cares about somebody like that? He don't care about you. Why are you worried about lifting him up? Why? Obama didn't care about you. He killed people off that looked like you. Remember when he went over to South Africa? South Africans had a problem with Obama. When he went over to Kenya, a lot of Kenyans were like, yo, like, he's supposed to be us, but he ain't never came to see about us. I say Trump never said that. Trump never did that. Trump never said, okay, fine, whatever. I don't care. You guys fight for your boys. You fight for Republican versus Democrat. That's not what this is for. I could care less about that. You into this whole thing. That's your boy. That's your celebrity. That's your flag. That's your standard. Right? I don't care about that. I don't care if he's black. I don't care if he's white. I don't care if mama was black or white. I don't care about any of that. What is he doing for you? Did he make sure you were taken care of? Did he make sure your family was taken care of? I don't care about the rest. I don't care. Gasoline was cheaper under Trump. Gasoline pretty cheap right now. Don't forget Trump had his up and down too with gas. Like they do that with everybody. Because guess what? Every president works for corporations. You think Trump is in control of gas? You think the government is in control of your gas? When you go to pay for your gas, do you pay the government? Like, have you ever gone? Some people have. If you've been like, I've been, I'm a former military person, former military personnel. And so I know what it is to go to certain places on the base, right? But for the most part, most of y'all have never been somewhere where it said, this is the United States, or this is the Navy, or this is the PX, or this is the NEX, or this is whatever, right? You've never been to something like that. You go and what does it say? 7-Eleven, QT, um, 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 Wawa, uh, Walgreens, whatever your place is. It does not say all this other stuff. You are not paying the government. The government does not control your gas. The gas is controlled by corporations. It even is controlled by the mob somewhat still, and you don't even know about that because the mob tells these people what to do. You live in a mobocracy and don't even know it. Right? You living in a mobocracy. I can care less about Republican and Democrat. See the lie that has you so messed up? Who cares? Watch this. Fine. The Republicans freed the slaves. Problem is that Abraham Lincoln created the 13th Amendment so that if you get arrested, you can be treated like a slave, which means chattel slavery is still legal. The Democrats created the KKK. Okay, fine. They created the KKK. No problem with that. J. Edgar Hoover, who was killing off his own people because he was part black and he hid it. He passed, right? And he was killing people who were homosexual, even though he himself was homosexual and he hid it. But his job was not to fight for himself or his people. His job was to do what? To preserve the Union. While fighting, though, he told you the truth. In 1920, he said that the KKK has gotten to a place to where they are judges, they are governors, they are lawyers, and if this continues and nobody does anything about it, they're going to take over. Right? That's the truth. You're fighting over Republican and Democrat, and they don't care about you. Is my point. Why keep trying to unify with liars who don't care about you rather than learn the truth so you can separate from those who don't care about you? That's the point. And people don't want to have that part of the conversation. You said, and that point was highlighted in the movie Shawshank Redemption. The people would get out and they didn't know how to conduct themselves. Yeah. So they committed suicide or went back in. Exactly. Right? You are imprisoned and don't even know it. You are captivated. You are in the land of your captivity, and it starts in your head. Why do you think that watch this? Why do you think that the president's not gangster? Right? You think that somebody got to do this to be gangster? Right? Why do you think the president's not gangster? He's a low level gangster because he gotta report to the real gangsters, to the OGs. Yeah, you can separate yourself from the world. The word world, cosmos with a K, it means system. Separate yourself from the system. Be in the system, but not. Or you got to be in the system, but not of it. Have you learned how to not be of it? Truth separates. Yeah, there's more gangsters that have done more damage with pens than they have with guns. There's more gangsters that have spoken the word behind closed doors that have killed off many than people who have actually pulled the trigger. Right? This is why one of the reasons I got out of the military. Real talk. One of the reasons I started having problems and stuff with it and everything is because, look, I comprehended that I'm a tool. I'm a puppet. Right? I was in a position at times to where if a little child ran up on a gate that I was guarding, I might have to shoot the little child if that little child pulled out a weapon, or if I thought that little child pulled out a weapon. There were times I thought about it. And the fact that I had to think about killing the child, realizing that it wasn't even my decision, but it was somebody else's decision. I said, I can't do this no more. I couldn't participate the way I was. I couldn't do that for 20 years. I had to get out as soon as I could. I had re-upped, and then once I was like, I can't do it no more. Right? I'm not saying that I'm somebody who was never brainwashed and never went through it, or was never a token, or never lifted up presidents. I used to do that stuff. I thought it was real. But when you work in it long enough and you see this stuff, look, man, y'all talk about security. It's always funny when I hear people talk about security. Like, I've been somebody who's seen stuff that I'm still not allowed to talk about. I've guarded people that I'm not supposed to tell you who I guarded. Right? Like, I've seen. I've been in charge of. I've had to tell 4 stars of different countries that you can't do what you're about to do, and them get mad at me and be like, "Yo, I don't care if you're mad at me. Like, you're not allowed to do that." But y'all talk about security willy nilly, like it's a Republican versus Democrat thing. Like, ain't nobody worried about that. I've had to make sure that people didn't walk out with stuff that could have blew you up. I've had to check cars and stuff before they came on the base, and had one where somebody was trying to blow us up. Like, y'all talking about stuff without even being involved in it. I'm telling you from personal experience, I know how this stuff works. There's people that are in high positions right now in the United States military. I trained them. Right? They at the high position. Had I stayed in, I'd be about what? So if I had stayed in, I'd be like 22 years of service, or coming up on 22 years of service. The people who've been in 22 years, like some of those people I know. Even if I don't talk to them like that anymore, because I can't roll with them. I'm telling you. You said, ha, sure. Okay, I don't care. This is not for you to believe, right? Because once again, I can't tell you stuff. I couldn't tell you even if you wanted, but you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you do. If you served and you actually did that, and you actually can show me your clearance and stuff like that, then maybe we can have a conversation. But I'm here to tell you, like, a lot of them cats that you seeing up there, like, I'm telling you, they're not, a lot of them, even if they are staunch Republicans. Watch this. You can be the staunchest Republican, the staunchest Democrat. When it's time to go to war, right? Like, you ain't worried about that. Right? E7. So thank you for your services, by the way. Somebody said Sergeant Major, so got an E9, or I don't know if you're in the Air Force or whatever, but possibly E9, E8, E7. So if you're a chief, if you're a gunny, if you're I'm sorry, I was in the Navy, so take me a minute. Chief, gunny, that's Marines. You can be what, master sergeant or something else, some other stuff in the Air Force. I don't know how that one works that well. And then if you were in the Army, you would be what, not sergeant first. No, yeah, sergeant first class, right? We still might call you sergeant. There we go. I'm not as connected as I used to be, right? But long story short, like, thank you for your service, right? But what I'm saying is this: is that no matter what you're doing, okay, master sergeant. So okay, amen. So I don't know if you were. Yeah, somebody said E7. So I was going off that. I know in the Air Force, E7, they have a different slot for those, right? Either way, though, right? If you're dealing with those things, what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of stuff like that people that never had no clearance, and I didn't even have much clearance, right? I didn't even have much clearance. I'm just telling you, like, as somebody that had some clearance, and literally I was in buildings to where if they caught on fire, everybody could leave except me and the other person on guard. Like, because we had to make sure nobody was gonna come in or nobody was gonna go out with stuff that they couldn't do. Like, I'm telling you, like, y'all talking about stuff and don't realize that when you get in that kind of commitment, even whether we're talking about the mainland, domestic, or, or foreign. The enemy, we have to be on it. We ain't work. I'm not trying to test and see, hey, do you believe in God? Do you believe in Elohim? Do you believe in Allah? Do you believe in Republican? Do you believe in the libertarians? Are you a communist? Are you a devil worshiper? Like, that don't matter at that point. Y'all having conversations that don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't matter. Watch this. I have fought with racists, people who were straight up, I know, hated me. They told me they hated me because of the color of my skin. But when the bullets start flying, it's time to get each other's back. We can do that stuff later, but right now we got to make it through this. See, y'all, we don't recognize that there's a fight that should say at some point it don't even matter. Like, we're in a fight. Bullets are flying. Do you have my back? You got my 6? Can you run point? Can you bring up the rear? Like, are you ready for this? I need you to be on point. I don't need you to worry about being separated. That's why they put you in boot camp. They put you in boot camp to train you, to retrain you, because you're coming out of the world and you're coming into the military. The military don't run like the world. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing in your biblical belief or whatever belief you hold. The world don't run like we run. And so I'm not worried about all this extra stuff right now. I know that bullets are flying. Do you have my back? Right? I'm only using Shantae's example because I know that she's former military. Shantae, can you bring up the rear? Can you run point? Can you do that's look, somebody got to be in charge. I don't care who it is. Just make sure that you train to lead us and make sure that we get out with our lives intact. Like, that's the point. Why are we arguing the other stuff? Like, I'm literally telling you that Christopher Columbus was more concerned about killing you, and not just because you were native, but if you went against him killing natives, he would have killed you too, which means he's your enemy, just like he's the natives' enemy. Why are you fighting for him? Why are you trying to allow him to lead you? That's not our leader. Look, if we got to get out of here, we got to get out of here. I have people that I drug out to make sure that they could come and see their children again. I didn't care what their nationality was. They didn't care that I believed something different. At the end of the day, you got the same uniform that I got on. Yo, you gonna make it home. Do what we got to do. Hey, cover me. That's what it is. Like, we trained for this. That's why you held that pack on 100 pounds, 200 pounds, had to go on a 5-mile, 10-mile hiking stuff together. Because when the time came to it, we were in training not to fight each other. We were in training to fight the enemy. Problem is though, that you see each other as the enemy. And so you won't even pick your brother or your sister up to make sure that they make it home. I need you to be on point so I can stay alive. Be on point. Stop arguing stuff that ain't got nothing to do with our mission. The same people who are come on here and say that happened a long time ago, fine then. People are still lifting him up today. That's still my enemy. Help me out. Period. I'm not the greatest warrior to ever live. Not by far. I didn't want to go over. I ain't even stay over that long. And I was more on gate guard doing anything else. But if fight broke out, it broke out. Right? The goal is for us to make it, period. And we fighting each other rather than fighting the people. Like, watch this. Like, once again, every president works for corporations. Do you know? Watch it. How many of y'all, if you've ever been to Washington, D.C. and you've seen the White House, do you know that no building is connected to the White House? I just told you a lie. I just told you a lie. I just told you a lie. Do you know that no building is connected to the White House? But that's not true. Not just above ground, but that's not even true above ground. There's only one building connected to the White House. So you live in a lie. You don't even realize how crazy this lie is. They tell you the truth. They show you just enough, but we don't know how to read the tea leaves, so to speak. The Federal Reserve is the only building connected to the White House. I'm not talking about underground. I'm talking about above ground. The Federal Reserve building is the only building connected to the White House. Go there and look. I've been there plenty of times. Federal Reserve building will be if you're facing the front of the White House, not the back. Federal Reserve Building will be to your left. Right behind you will be some brown buildings, and you'll see a church, and you'll see some other stuff you can go shopping at. And if you walk straight down there, you can get to the, you walk in a certain direction, you can get to the obelisk, the Washington Monument, and then you can walk across the mall and be able to get to the Congress Building. And you make a left and start going up 7th Street or whatever. And before you get up there, you can go 7th Street, you'll pass Archives, and you'll pass, where you'll see where the Starbucks is, at least if it's still there, the Starbucks, the McDonald's, the movie theater, the where the Washington Wizards play, and you'll see Chinatown and all that stuff, right? Which, by the way, is owned by a bunch of Chinese people right there in DC. You keep talking about China and this and that, but DC and China are like this, right? But after you finish all that, right? But when you go over there, when you go to the White House, look over, and at the left will be the Federal Reserve Building. In front of you will be the White House. There's a gate in front of you. You can't get any closer. Sometimes they even got cones to keep you further back from that, right? You'll probably see a bunch of people who were taking pictures, some people who were trying to, protest and all that. And then, and this is way before Black Lives Matter. This is an everyday occurrence there. And then you'll see in between the Federal Reserve Building and the White House, there's a clear tube. It's not even a tube that you can't see into. There's a tube that goes from the Federal Reserve Building straight over to the White House. Federal Reserve, by the way, is not even an American institution. It is not even part of the United States. Those are the people that own your money and tell you when you can print it out. But whenever the president gets ready to make laws, especially with money, guess what happens? Somebody from the Federal Reserve Office is going to walk in clear sight of everybody to show the power that they have, and walk straight into that White House and go into the Oval Office and sit down and say, this is what you will do. But you live in a lie where you think that it's American money. America ain't got no money. How America gonna be in debt when you don't even own your own money? Uncomfortable but true. How you gonna have debt, American? How you gonna be in debt and you don't even own your own? You can't even print out your money without permission. The banks, who don't really report to America, they really report to the Federal Reserve, But the banks, they all are in line with the Federal Reserve. That's why next year, 2023, after they told you don't get any cryptocurrency because it's worthless, they're about to come out with Federal Reserve cryptocurrency that you're going to start using in 2023. But you think you're in control. They told you don't get all this other stuff that's not attached to a country, and therefore you could have ownership over your own money. They're like, I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket, but you should at least gotten some. But they told you don't buy it. It's so cheap. It's worthless. It's this, it's that. And then all the corporations, when you sold it off, when they made the value go down, and they talk bad about it, all the corporations bought it up and then put it in what you call it, basically ones that are separate that you can carry around, but what do you call it? Cold wallets, cold storage wallets. And they took it off the system and made the money even come down, the worth come down even more. Everybody ran and sold their stuff. And all these corporations, all these stores now, they starting to do stuff in cryptocurrency. In Bitcoin and altcoin, all over the place. And you could have got your own, but now a lot of y'all gonna have to depend on cryptocurrency that's still centralized. You could have had decentralized currency and been free, at least freer. And instead, you're going to still be centralized. And now that it's going to be digital, what's going to happen is since it is digital, they're going to be able to come up with whatever rules and regulations, and it'll be put into a computer system. So they will easily be able, even if you don't break any laws, they can still say, hey, we don't like this, blah, blah. You said blockchain is always a trap, sure, but you're about to get into blockchain in the United States. So either way you trap, might as well have it to where you can study to see which ones are more decentralized than the other, which ones are more secure, and try to make sure that you're not using only stuff on apps or on websites, which is dangerous, but make sure that you're going to get into some blockchain that at least you can take the stuff off as you see fit and be able to control it. Right? That's the beast. Right? That's the government. And you ain't even see it coming because you trusted in the lie. Yes, fiat cash don't really mean anything. By the way, currency is just something we agree upon. If everybody decided today to disagree that dollars are currency, that rupees are currency, that I don't know, that pesos are currency, right? The pound is a currency, that euros is currency. If you just disagreed with it today and you stopped using it, guess what? It's no longer a currency. That's how easy you can get rid of it and be free. So once again, as I get ready to take my leave, Columbus is a cautionary tale to not just agree with the lie and unify over a lie, But if you're going to be in the truth, we must realize and help you. Oh, thank you, Wandernger. I still don't get it right, but you know, there's a cautionary tale that lies they unify, but you still enslaved. But if you're going to tell that truth, we just want to warn you that when you separate, be ready for what comes with it. But it's better at the end of the day to not be a slave than it is to keep being a slave. At the end of the day, the choice is yours. Thank you so much. We'll be back on tonight on Kofi_42 on TikTok, on YouTube. We'll be on the same channel. Thank you so much. If you're watching this later on, coming from Facebook or somewhere else to listen to this, we appreciate you. Thank you all who have been supportive of us. Thank you for listening in. And even if you disagree with us at the end of the day, thank you for being a human being and being an excellent example. Hopefully you're an excellent example on others on how to live. And like we said today, main thing, just try to be free. We're not doing this to try and say that somebody's better, worse. We're not trying to say your ancestors did blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about everybody deserves a chance to be free. So we thank you guys. We appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. Please check out my wife on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist. Biologist by degree for those who need to make sure that you got a degree. And we thank you guys so much. Those who are taking Black History 1 with us tonight, class is still on. Tomorrow, Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2 classes will still be on. On Wednesday, we will be on live for, on Wednesday, we'll be on live for Discipleship, Natural Medicine 1, and Hebrew Characters. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday class. Well, Thursday and Saturday classes will be recorded. So Thursday is Biblical Law. Saturday is Solutions from the Black Perspective in Marriage class. Friday's class, Herbalism, will not be recorded on Friday. That will be moved back a week, okay? And we'll be getting ready for our convocation. So the 14th, 15th, and 16th, we'll be busy up there in Detroit. We'll actually try to be there on Wednesday, on Thursday, the day early. Some of you will be seeing then, those who are going to be helping us. Thank you so much for helping us. Can we talk about Ghana? I don't have any time left today. Maybe we can bring that back this evening. I can talk a little bit about it. I don't know if I can explain everything, but we can talk about it tonight for a good 30, maybe 40 minutes, something like that. I might even start trying to get on a little early for those of you who can come on early. So instead of like 8, especially during class and everything, I know we get so short on these things in the evening. I might try to start coming on maybe about 7:45 or so. So if you want to start coming on early, we'll try to do that a little bit more just to see if we can get some more time in the evening together before I go into class. However, thank you again. I appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. Please study what I said. Don't just agree with it just because I said it. I'm not asking for that. All right. And don't disagree with it just because I said it either. How about study it? All right. And meditate, fast, research, pray, whatever you feel you got to do. And so you can be hearers of it and be doers simultaneously when you find the truth. All right. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you guys again. Thank you to everybody who was part of our early riser Bible study session. Those of you who worked out with us, we only got 3 more workouts left before we take our final. 3 workouts left, 3 more days left before we take a little break. We may or may not bring it out, but we've been doing a 30-day challenge. So thank you guys who've been part of that. I'll try to reach out to some of you very shortly, ministers especially. I'll be trying to send out some emails and different things, and maybe even just put some stuff on video so you can hear it on video. It might be easier than me trying to type up everything, but we look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Those who are traveling, be safe. Continue to love one another. Continue to love one another. Continue to love one another. We talked about yesterday, love lawfully. So love one another to the best of your ability. And hopefully you saw that this was out of love today. This was not to make somebody look bad, to be oppressive, to try and tell you don't know nothing. This is something where it's like all of us need to become greater together. I can't do this without you. And hopefully you feel the same about me. And that's when our love for each other really is going to blossom and grow, when we become interdependent, not independent and not dependent. I don't want you to be dependent on anything that I do or say. I want you to be interdependent one with another. I need you and you need me. All right. So thank you so much. We honor you guys. We'll talk to you guys briefly. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. So those we'll see tonight. Thank you so much. Until then, those we see tomorrow. This is our schedule. This week is going to be a little different because of the convocation, but usually our schedule is 8 a.m. Eastern or New York time every day, and every weeknight 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, except for Wednesdays. Wednesdays are my day off, and we have other people who pick up the teaching and things like that on Wednesday. So we thank you so much. We appreciate you. We honor you guys, and we look forward to talking to you soon. And until the next time I have a chance to be before you, the opportunity and the responsibility to be accountable before you all again, please remember, as always, Yashta, that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made in you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. It's October. We got the rest of this year. Hashtag finish strong, and all these things we've been doing. This year is a year where we're living in that which we have pursued. The pursuit is not over. We still got time to go. We still got time to be greater. Let's go get it. We'll talk to you later. Peace. And thanks again, everybody, for the love. Appreciate it.